Great to be with you guys, and a good evening to you all. It is Monday night, June 2nd. This is Generational Change for the last few weeks. It is only me right now, but this is going to be a lot of fun, even though Jen is out of town. We're going to post a nice little video of Jen over at Stonehenge, so be on the lookout for that on social media coming up in the next day or two. Obviously, we have a lot going on. Yes, all. It's obviously very gratifying that our show has grown as much as it has. We are on the cusp of hitting 26,000 subscribers now. We just did a post the other day for 25,000. Hey, I tell you, if we get 1,000 subscribers a week, I think Jen is going to live long enough to see us get to 100,000. I think it is possible. Despite all of the roadblocks that we've had over quite some time. You know, it's funny, I was looking at the numbers the other day, and I just wanted to go over it with Jen to kind of give her some perspective. And obviously, I'll give that perspective to Colin now and the rest of you as well. We went through a period between, I want to say it was like February or March of 2021 till the same time 2023, and I believe we gained like 1,500 subscribers during that period of time for 2 years. I mean, you want to talk about being a channel that was going nowhere, and the fact that we've had some peaks now where we've gained 1,500 subscribers in a week. It's very gratifying, and so I want to first and foremost say thank you to everybody that is here, that has been with us for this ride as we grow our channel into hopefully something that will continue to be effective in getting the message out there about these very key issues that are defining us in real time. It pains me to no end to see all the things that are going on right now. And before we bring Ron in, there is something that I do want to address, and I want to address this alone. I have bitten my tongue about this guy for a very long time because I generally just don't want to have to call people out. That's really not my style. I prefer to keep things, it's not even so much civil. I just think, you know, people have the right to a private life until they don't. And I believe, Colin, you have that image because I don't see it in the overlay. The one that I texted to you. I need that tweet message. I got to pull that up. So I don't need the picture of Evan. I need the other one. I need that tweet that I sent you a few minutes ago.
Is it this one?
It. You just missed it. Go back. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to set this up for you guys. And I'm, like I said, I am not holding back anymore. You guys know where I stand on this. And of course, this evening I'm wearing my McGuire's Irish shirt. I am Irish on my father's side. We're going to get into Paddy McCorry with Ron very shortly. But I do want to address this particular issue here. Now, for those of you who don't know, many of the people in South Florida politics, not that you should, it's not really important, but one person in particular who has often stood out to me as somebody who I just really don't like. He always came off as a weasel, getting himself involved in a lot of things that he shouldn't have been getting himself involved in. And he is, well, first of all, I would call him a Democratic Party sycophant. So you could start with that. That gives you an idea of what type of person he is. And was always getting into confrontations with a lot of people and saying a lot of outlandish things that he shouldn't have been saying, really walking that fine line between you're being an ass to you're going to get your ass kicked, I think is probably the best way to describe it. The man's name is Evan Ross. And this is I guess a story that he wrote that he put on Instagram within the last hour. In 1981, Reagan told Israel not to bomb Iraq's nuclear reactor. Israel did it anyway. In 2007, Bush told Israel not to bomb Syria's nuclear reactor. Israel did it anyway. In 2025, Trump is telling Israel not to bomb Iran's nuclear facilities. Israel should do it anyway. You know what type of a person writes stuff like this? A Zion Nazi. A total weak person in every sense of the word. And now that this person wants to be public enemy number one, okay, great. Well, let's make him public enemy number one. I want everyone to know who he is. I want everyone to see his face. I don't want there to be any lingering doubt about who your domestic enemies are, because this person didn't just spring up out of nowhere. He's been at it for a long time. And Jen and I were at a public event where he was at, and this was a little over a year ago. And at the time, I was saying to Jen, he better not say anything to me, because if he does, I'm going to hurt him, and I'm going to hurt him badly. And so, Colin, if you would, please pull up the other message that I sent you. This is Evan Ross. And as you can see, Evan Ross likes to keep very specific company. Bari Weiss and Michael Rappaport. This was at an event not too long ago in Miami. You know, it doesn't even matter what the message is. It's just a reflection of who these people really are. They're disgusting. They're irredeemable. And they should never be forgiven, ever. I mean, I have some pretty nasty thoughts about what I think should happen to the Zionists in this country. See what they're doing to the Palestinians? No, I'm not saying we need to resort to those type of tactics. However, I don't want to be around people like this. I don't want to be around people that say, let's start World War III. Oh, and by the way, I won't do a damn thing to defend this country. It's always people like this. And let me tell you, the thing that really got me on edge when I saw this guy at this event, he was walking around with that same stupid dog tag around his neck about, release the hostages. If there is anything that has been displayed over the past week, especially with what happened in Washington, D.C., what just happened in Colorado, they do not value anyone who is not their own in the same context. They believe in a racial, ethnic, religious superiority to everybody else. Now, the problem we're facing today, which is the biggest issue of all, is that there is this conflation that has been going on for far too long between Judaism and Zionism. And people like Evan Ross make it their mission in life to conflate the two things together, that you simply cannot separate them, that they must be the same. And all the while, to every one of you in South Florida who are going to see this, you have kept your mouth shut forever. You have let this man get away with everything forever. And why do they keep their mouth shut? Because Evan Ross, like many others in the Zionist movement, come from a lot of money. And a lot of that money gets redirected into the Democratic Party, even in a state like Florida, led by another Zionist, Nikki Fried, who does the exact same thing. And this is exactly why nothing changes. Why, if you're wondering, why don't they do anything? It's not hard to see why. This is their modus operandi. And it's never going to change. They will continue to do these things until the only solution to this problem, and there is only one, the United States must sever ties with Israel. That's it. You have to cut them off at the throat, take away their power, and that's how it ends. That's the only way. This guy, who's as big a pussy as you could possibly imagine, and he's not a small guy. You will never see me, ever, try to physically intimidate somebody who is not at least my size, if not bigger. He's about 6'2". He's, fairly broad-shouldered, but I will not hesitate. And I would do to him what Paddy McCorry did to Shuki Farage the other night. I wouldn't hesitate for 2 seconds. And I would tell him, Evan, if you're seeing this message, you better hope we don't run into each other at any point in the near future. In fact, ever again. Never run into each other ever again. You put out a message tonight basically calling for the mass killing of millions of innocent people. And you sit there with that fucking smirk on your stupid face. Here's somebody who never properly got his ass kicked. And I mean properly as in should be begging for mercy for the person to stop hurting them. He's never gotten it. It's pretty obvious. I really, really, really have had enough. I've had enough. And I would hope that everybody else has too. I espouse my opinions, and they're very strong, I know. But I haven't gotten to the point where I felt that I had to directly call out somebody. Well, that's over now. This guy not only has it coming, but I hope you're all taking note of what his Instagram account is. Mr. Evan Ross. Make him famous because thousands of people are going to see this stream. So make him famous. This guy wants to call for World War III. This guy wants to talk like a big shot. Let's see how fucking big he is when people actually point the arrow back in his direction. I know everybody's seeing that video that's been floating around, another video that unfortunately we all have to bear witness to, of these innocent children in Gaza that are being slaughtered every day. This guy gleefully smiles at it and doesn't think there's anything wrong with it. In fact, he embraces it. Shame on this motherfucker. And shame on everybody who doesn't speak up. Have I gotten the wind out of my sail? I think so. And since it is just after 7:15 Eastern time, of course, it's 4:15 Pacific Coast time. You know, I always mention that one of the more important political moments for myself and for Jen was when Ron Placone came to South Florida and did a comedy show in Miami. And he did it with Graham Elwood. And this was one of those places where Jen and I had basically united and had a sit down. And that conversation evolved into, you would make a pretty formidable opponent for Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Little did I know how we would end up here today. But if there is somebody that I truly appreciate in populist left politics, it is Ron Placone. Ron, thank you so much. Welcome back, baby. How's everything going?
What's up, man? And yeah, that's thanks for the fun trip down memory lane. Not the thing about this Evan Ross fellow, but the show in Miami. That was a really fun time, man. I remember that show. That was a cool. I don't know if that place is there anymore, but yeah, that was a cool spot. I remember that show. That was a really, really fun one.
Well, you guys definitely ham and egged it pretty well. And then I remember we ran into each other again in New York. I remember it was some underground, like clubby type.
Oh, yeah, the Broadway. That's right. You were at the one New York show. Yeah. Broadway Comedy Club. Now that place is still there. I've been back since, and that place has been there forever. But yeah, cool.
I want to ask you, when you do stand up, and obviously it's not easy to do because I know some people go to open mic night and they give it their best shot. What was it for you that you just decided, all right, you know what? I got to do this. I got to go for it. And what was the best lesson you took away from that first time you stood on that stage?
Man, there's kind of a funny, kind of roundabout origin story. I was getting really into radio when I was still in college. I was doing a lot of non-commercial radio. A lot of people, they'll always ask, especially comics like me, they're like, when did you decide to start being political? And for me, it was like, well, I was political before I was doing comedy. So it's always just kind of been there,
Yeah.
But because I was really into lefty politics and I was getting really into radio and stuff like that because of it. And I was, and this actually has nothing to do with politics at all, but I was driving around, I think with my dad, and he just had the radio on. And there was Ralphie May was doing a segment, the comedian Ralphie May, who's no longer with us. And the premise was there was a point in time in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which is where we were. That's probably an important part to mention in the story, where Mario Lemieux, who, you know, was a legendary Pittsburgh Penguins
All-time
player,
great.
all-time great, and is now owner of the team.
Hmm.
He was considering selling the Penguins, which of course everybody was really, really not thrilled about. But while that was going on, the one person you could not criticize was Mario Lemieux. Mario Lemieux was and still is like the Pope in the city of Pittsburgh, right? And so you couldn't criticize Mario. Like, you could criticize everybody else, but not Mario. And Ralphie May gets on the mic and he just goes on this roast of Mario Lemieux. And he goes, "Oh, why'd you have the back problems, Mario? Too many trips to the bank? Why do you want all the money? Don't sell the team." And he was just and it was so freaking funny. And the DJ was trying not to laugh, but couldn't help it. It was just so freaking funny. And it wasn't mean-spirited either. It was just so funny, but also satirical. He had a point where he's like, "Mario, you don't need to sell the team. Why are you thinking about it?" And I got like, and at that moment I was like, I don't know what that was, but whatever that was, that's what I want to do forever. Like, whatever that guy just did, I want to do that. I didn't even know that stand-up comedian was a job. You could, I guess in many ways it actually isn't, but I didn't even know that that was like something you could do around the country. Like, I didn't even know any of that. But I decided I didn't know Ralphie May was a comedian. I thought he would just had a radio show in a different city or something. Like, I had no clue how any of it worked. But I thought I need to do that. Whatever that guy just did, I need to do that. And then I got really into Bill Hicks, and you know, and then I was into George Carlin prior, you know, well, and Richard Pryor, but I was also prior into George Carlin. But then I got really, really into Bill Hicks and decided to try stand up. And that was a while ago at this point. And yeah, and then I'll also give a kind of like full circle moment. When I was in Nashville, Tennessee, it was when Ralphie May had moved to town. And he was a really cool guy. I mean, I got to smoke Snoop Dogg's weed because of him, because he gave me a nugget of Snoop Dogg's weed. It was quite good. It was quite good. But he would always kind of hold court in like the green room with all the comics. And a couple comics in town knew that story, and they were like, "Dude, you got to tell Ralphie about that. He'll think that's so fucking awesome." And I'm like, "I know, I really do want to tell him, but it's like one of those things, you don't want to tell him that story in front of a bunch of people. You know, it would come off as kind of like, you know, like Kiss It Up or something." So I you know, sadly, I never got the opportunity to tell him that story where it was like just the two of us, or just like an appropriate moment to be like, "Hey man, there's this thing I want to tell you about that I hope you appreciate." And so that's a bummer. Like he, you know, he passed away. And you know, my friend Courtney was like super, super close to him. Like, they were like best friends, and she knows that story. And she's like, "God, I wish Ralphie could have heard that. He would have loved that story. I'm so sad he didn't get to hear it." But yeah, anyway.
It's definitely an experience. You know, I've contemplated what I would do if I did open mic. I think in so many ways, it's like our entire world has just become one big social commentary that needs to be told in front of an audience, like it's a comedy show.
Yeah, I mean, hey man, it's a decision away.
It is. If you didn't know any better, you would think that we were living in some type of a stand-up routine, because it just seems so absurd at this point, with everything that we have been going through. And I'm sure you've been paying close attention to what's been going on for the past few days. You know, I think about where we can take out our frustrations. And this is almost like a perfect transition, if you will. Because as I talk about the way that I felt regarding this guy in South Florida, because I'm already back to who cares what his name is. He's just another statistic as far as I'm concerned. Just another Zionist in the midst who we all feel a very certain way about. And then something like this happens over the weekend. This man's name is Paddy McCorry. He's from Belfast. And we certainly appreciate what he did to that sniveling little weasel from Israel. And my Irish accent will continue to stay strong because I believe in this man. And I think we all should. That's the bottom line. He, in so many ways, I think was just, he became a physical manifestation of how I think a lot of people are feeling towards the Zionist movement. And the fact that a fight like this happened over the weekend was so prophetic, cathartic in many ways. Collins said the same, that there was this sort of catharsis of feeling of, if it's not a baby, if it's not a woman, and you actually have to physically stand up to another man. And this guy's an IDF soldier that he did this to.
Right. Yeah.
So to say that it was a feeling of empowerment, that he felt like he had the weight of the world on his shoulders to make sure that he came through in this fight, I think was pretty awe-inspiring to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of it reminds you of those moments throughout history where, you know, the sports, you know, did have political statements attached to them. I mean, this was definitely one of those moments, big time. I will be honest, I'm pretty ignorant when it comes to the fighting world. Like I'm not even totally. I mean, he was MMA, right? Like that's.
Yes, so it's
Okay.
a UFC. When I lived in South Florida, I used to go to a gym that was actually in Boca Raton, of all places, that actually had the Blackzilians. This was a really like well-known MMA gym. It just so happened to be a gym that I also at the time was doing CrossFit in, and so it was interesting to be around that culture. Definitely not a culture that I would immerse myself in either, because it's very volatile, to say the least.
Yeah, I just know nothing about it, man. I mean, I've only ever watched a handful of fights, and it was usually when I was just invited by somebody, like it was like a group activity, and usually I would just sort of half pay attention to the fight, and you know, it was like mostly just a social event or whatever. So I know very little about it. I do have one high school friend who does Muay Thai professionally.
Muay Thai, yeah, sure.
Muay Thai, okay, yeah, he does that professionally. How is that different than other forms of boxing or fight? I don't know. It looks cool, I know that, but yeah, I mean, I saw some of these clips online, and it was pretty cathartic. And also, you know, side note, all time, like every plea for freedom, when it has an Irish accent attached to it, it just sounds the best. Like it just sounds so perfect. And I think it's probably because they got a little bit of oppression in their history, just a tiny bit.
Just a tiny bit.
But yeah, like I mean, you know, when you say Free Palestine with an Irish accent, it just sounds better. It sounds great anytime you say it, anytime. But with an Irish accent, it is just brought up to 11. Same with any other call for freedom. Unless it's Mel Gibson's fake Irish accent, then it just doesn't. It's just not great. Oh well, he was Scottish actually. He was playing a Scottish.
He was playing a Scotsman.
But there was the Irish guy who was like the main dude. Like the Irish guy was.
Yeah,
like
you're talking about Brendan Gleeson, who's awesome.
Yeah,
my sister actually met him in Cork many years ago.
Yeah, yeah, he was great in that movie. But anyway, yeah.
No, without question, and especially us both having Irish heritage. It's
I have no Irish heritage.
You don't? I thought you were Italian Irish for some reason. My apologies.
Dude, I'm just you just think that because I'm a ginger.
No.
Yeah,
I mean, you're from Pittsburgh, and yeah, there is the light. So. Forgive me.
You had no other reason to think I'm Irish other than I'm a ginger. Like I've never said. I mean, I'm wearing a green shirt. Was that it? Like, well, you own a green shirt.
Oh, I was. Hey, dude, I'm rocking my McGuire's Irish.
This is a Talking Heads T-shirt, but I'm glad we both wore green. I wasn't planning this. It just happened organically. But
I think so.
Yeah.
No, Ron and I did not discuss wardrobe decisions before the show.
No, but yeah, no, I'm not Irish. I love Celtic punk music, and I love Ireland. Ireland's great. But yeah, no Irish blood. I've even went to the immigration museums and stuff like that. And when you type the last name Placone in there, it just says LOL, you have no heritage here. So yeah, but my wife's maiden name, my wife is Irish, or Irish American. And so she had a bunch of stuff in all of them. She had ancestry in Scotland and in Ireland, and I think even a little bit in England. But we put my last name in all those museums, and freaking nothing, not a thing.
Well, I am Irish on my father's side, and to say that this was a very proud moment, but it couldn't happen under better circumstances because, as we know, since the very beginning of this genocide, the Irish have been firmly on the side of the Palestinians. There has been no wavering there. They were willing to take the heat, and a lot of heat came in the early stages. But rest assured, this was it was almost like Rocky defeating Drago type of a feeling. It was very, very cathartic. And let's see what actually happened. We haven't even shown that yet. Could you imagine taking a second to beat the shit out of a Zionist to tell him free Palestine before I knock you out? I mean, that's pretty freaking balls to the wall, if you ask me.
Yeah, no, it's pretty badass. And again, for anyone not in the know, I know we said this earlier, but this dude was an IDF soldier. You know, it's not like this is just some random guy who has nothing to do with anything, or it's not like it's even just somebody who, you know, maybe has really bad takes on foreign policy, not because they're a bad person, but just because they only get Western propaganda force fed to them 24/7. You know, like this is an actual IDF soldier that he fought here.
Amen.
So. He's saying it to the audience too.
McCorry addressing his fans at K-side.
So you're probably wondering how I ended up here. That's like the thing that's going through his head right now. He's like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have killed those kids. Yeah, maybe you shouldn't have. You're lucky this is all you're getting.
Big elbows from McCorry.
Oh, wow, he's calling him a kid killer. Damn. I didn't hear
It's
that.
over.
He called him a child killer.
Yeah,
twice.
he did. Yeah, he did. Good for him.
Yeah.
He's got it, man. I don't know anything about fighting, so this guy gets my favorite.
Well, all I can say for Paddy McCorry, you're going to get yourself some really nice endorsement opportunities. We appreciate you. As he should. For those that are,
I hope so. I hope it doesn't. I hope it doesn't hurt him.
No, not well. I mean, look, he's going to have a target on his back. But the one thing I think we can safely say at this point is that the Zionists are definitely on the run. They have backed themselves into such a corner that I think it was somewhat inevitable. You know, I always told Jen that the only reason really that we didn't have a bigger impact on Wasserman Schultz, especially the second time around, despite the message that was being put out there regarding the fact that Jen was an anti-Zionist Jew who had found the light, so to speak, and that Wasserman Schultz is as bad as anybody that you could find in politics. But I always felt that Debbie was the type of person that if she just kept talking, she would eventually spiral out of control. And that is essentially what's happening with the Zionist movement, because they have no way of defending their ideology. Their ideology is a death cult. And I think at this point, if anybody is being objective in what's going on, it's pretty obvious that it's just really, really bad. And so how do we continue to put the pressure on? Because I think right now, they're kind of running out of places to go. They are desperately clinging to anything. And to be honest, we're not even going to dig into what happened in Boulder just yet, because it's way too early. But when things like this happen, I can't help but think that there is a conspiracy behind every one of these instances. And someone's saying, oh, they're just targeting Jews. I'm like, well, not really. I mean, this was a Zionist rally that evidently was being held. And anytime something of significance happens that makes the Zionists look bad, and I want to equate it to what happened with fisticuffs, but they've depended so heavily for so long on controlling the PR that the PR is not working like it used to. In fact, it's not really working at all. It's actually turning against them. At least that's what I'm seeing. Would you agree?
A little bit. Yes, but
It's
and
early. It's early. I
well,
agree.
no, here's the thing, man. I feel like I really feel like the one thing the United States has going against it and always has is just the collective amnesia of the country. And there have been moments where I felt like, like you brought up at the very beginning, this whole nonsense propaganda equating Judaism with Zionism, equating support of the right wing Israeli government with Judaism, those types of points of association, which are absolutely ridiculous. And that's putting it gently. And we know this, and we've known this for a very, very long time. But I feel like we learn those lessons and then people unlearn them, because I feel like there was a time, a couple years back, where those walls were starting to crumble and it was encouraging. Then all of a sudden, when things first escalated again, and like everyone was saying, oh, October 7th and blah blah blah, all of a sudden it was as if those walls had never crumbled. And all of a sudden you heard the same propaganda machine. And I think a lot of it is well, they got, the corporate press on their side. They got a lot of money on their side, blah, blah, blah.
And they
But
do.
it was as if those couple years had never happened. And now it's coming around again because people are seeing children being slaughtered and they're saying, okay, what the hell? But they're seeing through this propaganda again. But I feel like it's like a one step forward, two step back thing, one step forward, two step back thing. And now we're kind of in a one step forward moment, but I'm not, I don't know. I'm just not trying to get overly hopeful about it because I feel like we've been here before.
One of the reasons I do believe that this moment is different is because I feel that there are people that are involved now that were never involved before. And now the impact is being felt in a way that no one has ever really seen. There's a crossover element to it. The one thing that we've learned over the past decade, since we first became aware of each other during, obviously you were with Jimmy, I was with, working on the sidelines with Jordan. And I think we've seen this sort of evolving, if you will, of the way that the political discourse happens. We found ourselves kind of in a bubble, thinking that we're well aware of what's going on, but the overwhelming majority of people are not really aware of what's going on. And when you bring up that particular issue at the time, let's say Medicare for all, for example, most people look at you cross-eyed. They don't know what you're talking about. And they're like, oh, that sounds good. And I don't really know too much. I do believe we have crossed a threshold that is different. I believe it's different now. And the reason I believe it's different is because of people like Miss Rachel.
Be so ashamed of your silence. Be so ashamed that you've seen the same images and videos that we've all seen, but they haven't moved you to do the right thing. The doctor who had her 9 children come to her, who had been killed. You saw the little girl walking through the fire. You could see her little ponytail. Be so ashamed that you normally speak out for human rights. You normally speak out for children everywhere, but you won't now because they're Palestinian. Be so ashamed of your anti-Palestinian racism.
We've talked about this before. I think that the use of the word racism is extremely overblown in many instances. I think the fear of the unknown is a real thing for sure, but there could be no clear-cut example of pure, unadulterated racism in its purest form than the way Zionists feel about Palestinians. Ethnic, cultural, religious superiority, pure and simple. And then you have the people who just stay silent for whatever reason that may be, either because they hold certain internal bigotry regarding people that are Palestinian. If there was one thing we could all definitely agree on, is that there is no overstating how absolutely bigoted this country is when it comes to Muslims.
Oh, yeah.
That is real.
Oh, I think, yeah, absolutely. And also just how nationalistic this country is. I mean, I've said this before. I'll say it again. I don't know if the United States is the most nationalistic country in the world because I've not traveled enough to be able to make that qualified statement. I will say this: if there is a country more nationalistic than the U.S., I've not been there, and I have no desire to go there. If such a place exists, I have no desire to go there. I don't care how pretty their beaches are or whatever else. I have no desire to go there if such a country even exists and they have nice beaches. But yeah. So I think that's kind of what people lean on. They lean on like, well, you don't question our foreign policy. Whatever we're doing is the right way to do it. So if we're helping out Israel, Israel is the right side, and that's who you should be rooting for. And it is no more complicated than that. There's a good guy and a bad guy, and life is a comic book. And by the way, they're the sanitized comic books that we've required the U.S. to have since the 1950s. You can look that up. That was a big effort to kind of like make people obedient for war back in the day in this country, and that's what they lean on. And I think people, especially in the political realm, I mean, there's been a small handful, a very, very small handful of outspoken people. And even that has left a bit to be desired, I would say. And it's absolutely criminal, but it's par for the course, because I mean, a lot of these politicians, they get AIPAC money. A lot of them just, don't ask questions about foreign policy, or just choose to have a blind ignorance because it's best for their job security if they do that. And that is the system. That's what's happened. That's what happens when you build a war economy.
I'm not going to say who it is, but Jen was, let's just say, friendly, if not outright, colleague-esque, if you will, with a congressman who is there now. And I actually think is a fairly decent one, to be honest. But even that person made a statement about the anti-Semitism bullshit. And it's like, they all get their mind right. They all do. There's very few, if any. Like, again, Thomas Massie is a rare bird who just doesn't care. He understands his worth. He knows his constituents better than anybody else. He knows he's safe, and he's willing to say what needs to be said. And when we see people that we even for a second think are decent, and then they just
how are his votes though? That's my only, and not even, I'm not even like singling him out, but my question in general, when I hear stuff like that, when you hear like some of these, people who they have a hyper online audience, so they can kind of be, they can kind of make statements like that easier and not lose their support. My question does come back to, how do they vote? Because tweets don't equal policy.
Yeah. And no, I think that, the fairest way to describe Thomas Massie, who I do believe is as good as anybody in the halls of Congress, he's obviously libertarian. He's as pretty much as anti-war as it gets. Are
his votes that way?
1,000% across the board.
Okay.
When it comes to the
I'll take your word for it. I can't speak to that.
When it comes to the military-industrial complex, there is nobody better. Nobody. Period. He's the best. And he's willing to buck that trend. And
he's voted against every defense budget, every single one. He's voted 100%. Against it.
Mm-hmm. He's willing to be that one no vote. And then, of course, you have the Donald who comes along and says what a terrible person Thomas Massie is. And everyone in the MAGA movement, to a man, says, back the fuck off of Thomas Massie. So it's going to be interesting to see what sort of like the post-Trump world is going to look like. I don't want to look that far into the future right now, because we've got way too many problems that we're dealing with that right now, and that we're obviously going to have to deal with him going forward.
Yeah, but it's a long ways away. So.
It is. But this is inspiring, because Miss Rachel is somebody who doesn't get involved with this stuff ever. She made a very gentle comment regarding the genocide and how the Palestinian children have a right to live. Well, let me tell you something, brother. They came after her with guns blazing. Little did they know how influential this woman is, and it has nothing to do with politics. It has to do with the fact that she is Miss Sesame Street. That's basically who she is. Like, this is the lady that is like who Mr. Rogers was for us in the 80s when we were little kids. That's basically who she is. And they're coming after her. And it's like the Zionists, they don't know the meaning of going too far. And so now it's essentially that, at least from her disposition, that, okay, now I'm going to make it a crusade. And that's what this looks like to me.
So ashamed that you don't see Palestinian people or their children as the same as us and our children. You think their babies don't like peekaboo and don't smile when they see someone they love and don't cry the same? Be so ashamed that your constituents are begging and pleading for you to say something and do something, and you just ignore us. Be so ashamed that you're putting money, power, your career, your reputation before precious children of God. Be so ashamed that our religions tell us to help the poor. Our religions tell us to feed the hungry. Our religions tell us to open our arms to all people and all children and love every neighbor as ourselves. And you pretend that they mean some. You pretend that they mean ones that maybe look like you or have been deemed acceptable. And that's not right. That's a lie. When enough people say something, it's not controversial anymore. So we need everyone to say something. It's never been wrong to say not to starve children and not to bomb children and not to kill 15,000 children. What's wrong is to be silent.
Amen.
Yeah, well
It
said.
could not
Good
be
for her.
any more clear.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and when you come at it from like a humanitarian point of view, it's really hard to dispute that. You know what I mean? Like when you come at it from, it's just like, hey, bombing children, very bad, very, very bad. It's really, really hard. I mean, they try, but it's not easy.
I wouldn't normally look for any Bible quotes, but they still call me Ricky. Suffer the children unto me, not make the children suffer. That is,
Yeah.
couldn't say it better. That's exactly what it is. But what we have learned over the years, and of course, obviously you're from Pittsburgh, I'm from New Jersey.
Yeah, Pittsburgh is the home of Mr. Rogers, by the way.
Mhm.
He broadcasts right next to my high school.
I mean, talk about a legend, to say the least.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and he was one of those guys too. I mean, he looked at things. I mean, his actual politics were like on the right contemporarily. Like he typically voted Republican and stuff, but he was also just like a human about things, and he was very much just a humanitarian. So yeah, I feel like he would be, if he was still alive, he'd be saying similar things right now. And
Well,
I doubt he'd be voting Republican. But
I doubt he'd be voting Democrat either.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's tough to say because it's like, sometimes it's like people, vote a certain way because this is just what the system hands them. But yeah, I think he'd be saying similar things to what she just said if he was still around.
He certainly would not be sitting on the sideline, but then again, the world has changed dramatically in so many bad ways that so much of the policies that took place when we were young are now coming home to roost as we enter our 40s. It's strange. It's strange. And I always say, I say this almost every live stream that we do. Everyone believes that we're living in a unique time period. We are living in a very unique time. We are. There is so many shifts that are happening in so many ways. And the fact that there's just so much information that's thrown at us constantly, it's very hard to keep up. It's very hard to follow all the different things. I mean, even before the show, I'm looking at all the different stories that are going on right now. And, we don't do this for a living. We do this because we care and we're trying to get the message out there about the things that really matter. But we have to decide, as a program, as a unit, what is the best message? What do we need to be addressing right now? And I think anytime we have the opportunity to help grow our channel by bringing out the key messages of our time, which includes what Miss Rachel is talking about, which is you are showing your whole ass by pretending that there isn't a mass murdering genocide going on right now of Palestinian children. And the fact that we are, what are we now? Are we 20 months into this? I mean, I remember how I felt right at the beginning. I remember how I felt within the first few weeks. And Jen made a viral clip within like the first 10 days talking about the Nakba, when everyone wanted to come after her, like, how dare you? This is, you know, don't you have any sympathy? It's like, you don't have any sympathy for the Palestinians. You never did. This has always been a colonial settler project of the worst kind. And now I do believe that sort of the boomerang effect is being swung back in their direction. I know, I agree with you. It's still early. I know people want to get excited and think, okay, well, everything's going to change now. No, it's not. It's not going to happen that fast. But I do think we are seeing significant cracks in the armor. I think it's real. I think there isn't going to be, we're just going to go back to normal at some point. That's not happening.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not saying the cracks in the armor aren't there. I just worry that, yeah, the cracks in the armor are there, and we take a step forward, and then a couple years from now, you know, we're going to be right back to where we started. That's kind of like my concern, because I mean, I think there is recent history backing that up. You know, again, like a couple years ago, like we were seeing some cracks in that armor, and then, you know, after October 7th, it was like that never happened, you know, and now it's starting again because people are seeing the brutality, you know, of Netanyahu and the Israeli government. I just hope it's permanent this time, you know, like I hope it's a permanent awakening this time, and it might be. Like, I'm not saying it's definitely not gonna be, and I just sincerely hope it is, and I think it is. You know, whenever somebody, I mean, since we brought up Mr. Rogers in like my hometown, whenever somebody does play, whenever somebody tries to say, you know, the anti-Semitism line, which, and granted, I try to meet people where they're at, because I think some people, they repeat stuff like that because they honestly don't know any better. You know, like they've just been force-fed Western propaganda and have never heard a different point of view. So I try to change their minds, you know, like I really do. And so whenever, you know, somebody, you know, other people, it's not, you know, it's not genuine, but, you know, whenever somebody says, you know, the whole anti-Semitism thing, I always mention, hey, you know, my hometown is Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and my family includes Italian people and Jewish people. And there was a big shooting at the synagogue in Pittsburgh. Yes, there was a big shooting at that synagogue some years back. And that was an act of anti-Semitism. That was done by an anti-Semite.
100%.
And my parents lost friends at that event. People that we knew were murdered at that event. And if you walk by that synagogue, I don't know if it's up like right at this very, very moment. It's been a while since I've been in Pittsburgh, but at least at a point in time in recent history, if you walk by that synagogue, you will see a sign calling for a ceasefire, calling for peace, calling for an end to the genocide against Palestinians. So if you want to say that, you know, not supporting this genocide and not supporting the right-wing Israeli government and not supporting, you know, this brutal oppression is somehow anti-Semitic, start there. Go to that synagogue. Tell them they're anti-Semitic.
Couldn't have said it better. That's that hits home, I think, harder than anything else. And I hesitated whether I was going to bring it up on this live stream or not, but I think we're going to, just because it's very relevant to what's going on right now. You know, I don't think people fully grasp, just in general, how absolutely brutal and horrific the Zionists really are when they have to talk about Palestinians, how they feel about them. And everyone is always under this impression of, well, they're not really that bad. They have, you know, maybe some strong opinions, and they always claim that they're trying to hurt them and all that. No. For those of you who may or may not be familiar with Hamzah Saadah, I believe is how you say his name. He's a very popular YouTube and TikToker. He's Palestinian. He's very young. He's 20, 21 years old. And this is a guy who uses his platform to actually engage on TikTok with Israelis, and specifically about Palestine. This is going to upset some people. So I just want to forewarn you about some of the stuff that's going to come out of these people's mouths. But it is important that you hear it and that you see it. Because if anyone doubts that there is redeeming qualities to Zionism, there isn't. And here's the proof.
Why are you spreading lies?
What lies am I spreading?
You literally from America. You don't have a say in this. This is a war between Israel and Hamas. You don't have a say.
I'm Palestinian.
But you live in America.
Because I was displaced. My family was displaced.
Okay.
What do you mean, okay? My family was displaced.
Before he even has a chance to speak, I freeze frame it here for a reason. You see how these kids talk? And these are kids. The one on the right, maybe she's 8 years old. The one on the left, maybe 10, 11. And the person over their shoulder is the person who sticks this hate into their brain. That's who does it. This doesn't just come from anywhere. This pure hatred and genocidal behavior starts with parents passing it to their kids for one reason or another. And you're going to hear now from the person who teaches these kids, do you care that my family's displaced or has been killed? Not a big deal.
Hello.
Guys, we're going to finish this conversation, please. We are not speaking with anti-Semitic people, okay?
I'm not anti-Semitic.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. And you are against the Jews because they are Jews.
Why are you lying to your kids? Why are you lying to your kids?
No matter what we are going to say, no matter you're going to be against us and to be on the Hamas side.
Why are you lying to your kids?
Read the facts and read the history as it is.
Okay, I did.
You can support us or you can be against us. But if you are against us, it's because you are Jews.
I'm against the 10,000 Palestinians that were killed in Gaza in the past month. 10,000 Palestinians were bombed.
You know,
just look at the reaction of that fucking kid. It's sick. And as the father so eloquently says, you're either with us or against us. You're either with our genocide or you're our enemy. I think he made it pretty clear, Ron. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean that's how, and boy, it sounds familiar. I remember when a certain somebody was trying to go to war with Iraq, and a few people were wary of it. And there was the whole "you're with us or you're with the terrorist." I mean, it's just nationalism sucks, you know, like it just does. It just freaking does. You know, and that's what this is. Yeah, I mean that's what this is. Yeah, I mean we do this in the United States the same way this guy is doing it. You know, and it's a damn shame. I mean the thing about stuff like this is it can be unlearned, because it is unlearned. I mean look, let's be honest, we're American. We've unlearned it.
Yeah.
I mean we were force fed. I mean, not that specifically, but we were force fed a version of that our entire freaking lives too. That we're the good guy, we're looking out for the world. You know, everything else going on is just a threat to our freedom, and we're bombing the planet to keep us safe. It's a bunch of freaking bullshit. We unlearned it, so it can be unlearned.
Yeah.
And you know, I think the more of the world that unlearns all that bullshit, you know, wherever the source of the bullshit is, I mean, you know, we'll evolve just a little bit. Just a little bit.
why they are
Half of them are kids. Tell me why. I want you to tell me why.
because a month ago the Hamas people go from Gaza to the Israeli territories.
And tell me why. Tell me why.
Why? Tell you why.
The
Why?
16 years of blockade of Gaza, the buildup of the occupation for the past 75 years. That's why.
I'm not here to educate you. Thank you very much.
It is.
You love Israel?
No.
Why?
Why?
Because of what they're doing to Gaza.
No, it's not true.
It's not true. Oh, they didn't kill 10,000 civilians?
No, she's in Israel. Israel is defending.
Oh, okay. So they're killing young children and babies, infants. Is that defending yourself? Is defending yourself killing infants and children?
Israel killed terrorists.
So kids are babies. Babies are terrorists.
No.
Then why are they killing babies?
It's not reality.
But it's real. They bombed the refugee camp. They bombed the refugee camp. Is that self-defense? It's fake. But it's not. Bombing a refugee camp is not defending. That's not self-defense. A refugee camp, a hospital. What about that? Is that easier to understand? A hospital. Bombing a hospital is not self-defense.
No, hospital because it's Hamas.
Hamas did not blow any hospital up.
You don't know.
Okay, let's say they did. Let's say they did. Israel over the years have bombed over 20 hospitals. What are you gonna say about that? And that's confirmed. And this one's also confirmed, but we'll forget about that for now.
The fake news.
But
Gaza is fake news.
It's fake news.
Gaza is like no control Israeli, no Israeli control in Gaza.
Israel doesn't control Gaza.
What is he on that he's just talking to all these random people?
So Hamzah,
is this some sort of live stream thing or?
Yeah, so Hamzah has impressively over 7 million followers on TikTok.
Okay.
And he does these streams where he talks to viewers and they show up. And I guess he specifically pointed out the fact that he wanted to talk to Israelis because he's Palestinian. And there's like hundreds of these. And they're all...
Oh, it's Omegle. I'm looking at the chat. It's called Omegle.
Or One Me TV or something like that. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know how it works because
I feel so not hip right now.
Hey,
what is this? The kids are on a thing called the YouTube.
Yeah.
It's like a television station, but you can upload a video to it and it's on the internet.
And you could do it in the comfort of your own home. Yeah, that's kind of where we are. And yeah, it is impressive. But there's also the part where we as millennials just missed the cutoff of this. You know, we weren't handed a cell phone during our cognitive developmental years, but all of these guys have it. And
we're like just on the cusp. Like we're just old enough to remember pre-internet, pre-cell phone world. But then we also did still have it during still some relatively formative years, you know, like middle school, high school, whatever else. And then some of the younger millennials had it even longer. But yeah, we were arguably the last generation that got to just play outside and come home when the street lights came on.
When it got dark. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of glad for it, to tell you the truth. Like,
I wish we could bring it back, man.
I don't envy really young people. Like I mean, I have some friends in their 20s and stuff, and I'm like, oh yeah, I wouldn't trade with you if I could. I really wouldn't.
No.
But anyway.
Doesn't control. They have.
What about the food, the water, the electricity? And I mean, it seems like they cut that off. I thought they didn't control Gaza.
We don't control. We don't have any. You know, and the water, as we give them. We give them a lot of what we can.
Oh, so you do control them. Do you agree with Free Palestine?
I'm agreed to free us. I actually.
It seems like you're free. I mean, you're talking to me on Omegle. You have internet, food, and water. I don't think anyone in Gaza has that.
Listen, you know what happened in the Holocaust?
Yeah, I think did the Palestinians do that too?
No, the Holocaust was the genocide.
Oh, okay. I thought you were about to say the Palestinians did that. I was about to question that very hard.
All of Israeli people want peace, and
they want peace.
We actually want peace.
Hello.
You from the TikTok? I hate the Palestine. I hate you, but I want all the Arab people. It will happen now, right now in Gaza, because Gaza now in the hell.
You really believe that?
Yeah, all the people in Gaza dead. What?
Jesus.
Just flippant about it. I want them dead. I want them all dead. Kill all the Arabs. You know, that's like Charlie, you know, Little Face Kirk. Yeah, you remember Little Face from Dick Tracy? Well, he fits that mold pretty easily. Charlie Little Face Kirk comes out with a viral tweet today saying that Islam is not compatible with Western civilization. In other words, if you see a Muslim, do what you have to do to get them out of this country.
He does look like a Dick Tracy drawing. I've always been trying to put my finger on like what his deal is, like what's up with his forehead.
Well,
And yeah, he looks like a Dick Tracy villain.
Hey, you listen, if you or Graham or whoever are going to use that material on stage, you can thank me later. I just give you some good material. There you go.
What you want, and it's really, really fun. I'm proud for my people.
That's not funny though.
Jesus.
Wallah, I just started the stream. Like, this is crazy. Hi. Which one of my videos is your favorite?
I don't like your videos at all.
You don't like my videos at all? Okay.
Why are you mad?
20,000 civilians were killed by Israel in Gaza, half of which are kids. That's why I'm mad. Did you see the videos of the kids dying in Gaza?
You know what's interesting?
Whoa, the kids dying.
What's interesting here is that I feel like the younger people that he talks, I mean, most of these people are younger, but like the younger people that he talks to, it almost seems like he is getting close to kind of getting through to them. Like they're having a few, like they're pausing a little bit while they're talking to him, and then they're repeating the stuff that they've been force fed, you know, the ideas that they've been force fed. But they're having moments of pause, which makes you kind of hope that
cautiously optimistic.
Cautiously optimistic that like some seeds are being planted, that they're going to start questioning things, and maybe, you know, 8 years from now or however, maybe even 2 years from now, they're going to look back on this and being like, oh my God, I can't believe I said those things. And I woke up, you know. But then like the older people that you would hope would know better by now, like they're saying the most awful shit, you know, anyway.
Yeah. Well, listen, I've heard bigoted stuff come out of my grandfather. I mean, things are what they are, man. But
no, I know.
We evolve. I don't think any of, you know, whether it was, you know, either of my grandparents, you know, their opinions did not involve them dropping bombs on innocent children. Whereas
somebody in the chat called me naive. If you think children learning and evolving is naive, I feel very sorry for you.
Hey,
that is a very, very sad way to live a life. And I could tell you something about me. I was raised Catholic. So I was taught about Catholicism. I was taught that abortion is murder. I was taught all that stuff. And you know what happened to me as I got a little older? And we're not even talking a lot older. We're talking like middle school. I unlearned it. And some of the stuff that I was uncritically repeating when I was younger, I unlearned that stuff. And I started saying something else. So if you think it's naive to say that especially young people, I mean, honestly, you never stop learning unless you choose to. So adults can unlearn things too, but especially young people that are just moving up in the world, if you think that it's naive to think that they can evolve, that's sad. I feel sorry for you. I really do. I truly feel sorry for you.
Amen.
I know it's a comment section, and you know, being contrarian for contrarian's sake is the way to get cool points. But that's a sad way. That's a sad way to think. It really is.
It's also a reflection of how much our channel has grown. So you know what? Hey, trolls, every time you comment, it helps more and more people see the right message. So thank you for your service.
Are fake?
Yeah, it's fake.
How many innocent lives in Gaza were killed by Israel? Do you know?
I don't care.
You don't care?
No, I don't care.
And that's the message. That is the message that has been put out there time and again, and even by the youth. This is very consistent. Now, do the occasional person have a moment of clarity and say, maybe what we're doing is wrong? Yes. But unfortunately, overwhelmingly, this young lady's attitude, those young men's attitude, it's pretty universal. It's universal there, as it is in a number of places here in the States. I give Hamzah
The
all
number, but the entire states.
yeah.
Let's
well,
not sugarcoat the United States. No,
Yeah,
this country is incredibly freaking nationalistic. If you think there's any pocket that's immune, I can tell you, as somebody who has lived in every corner and lives in the supposed progressive utopia of California, that's a funny myth. Yeah, no, it's the United States.
It is. And as anybody who wants to absolve themselves from the realities of, what we do here, I'm going to remind people as often as I have to in defense of our good friend Steve Grumbine, there is no our tax dollars paying for what's going on. There is a corrupt and overtaken government by corporate special interests. You could call it oligarchy, you could call it fascism, you could call it whatever you want. But the fact remains that we live in a country today, still arguably, and again, arguably, the most powerful nation on earth that does not answer to the will of its people at all. There is nothing that we, the people, demand that is being done on our behalf. And MAGA right now is finding out the hard way that Palantir is now being given one of the biggest government contracts ever by Trump. To do what? To watch us every day, no matter what we do. And why is that? Because corporate power has superseded the will of the people, which means that we are now living in a tyrannical government. And as Thomas Jefferson once said, when people fear the government, there is tyranny. When the government fears the people, there is liberty. The government doesn't fear us, not yet anyway, but that could change. And hopefully messages like this will be put out there, because the people that are pulling the levers of power are giving billions upon billions, if not outright trillions of dollars to things like endless war in Ukraine, saber rattling with China, and of course, whatever the fuck Israel wants to do. And as a result of that, we have very little, if any, say in any of this until we decide that we want to have a say in it. And if we collectively as a nation say, we're done with this shit, then that's when it'll change. Israel cannot survive a fucking day without us backing it up. And if the UN is any indication, the rest of the world is done with Israel. We're the only ones keeping them above water. And if we continue to espouse the message of we're done with this death cult of a nation, yes, they're going to bitch and moan. Yes, they're going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars through all of their nonprofit organizations to work over the elections. But if there's anything that has been indicated to us over the last decade, as it was for me, as it was for Ron, as it was for many people, especially in 2015 and 2016 with Bernie, there was this awakening period of the recognition that when a real populist comes along that's trying to help the people, there is no getting through because the system's rigged beyond any form of change through the voting booth. You will not do it that way. You will only do it in the streets. You will only do it with your wallets. That's it. So if you want to make that change, we have to collectively use our platforms together. Are we going to get suppressed? Yes. Can some of us get shut down like our friend Blakely? Absolutely. It's going to happen. But this is like, I don't know. Blob is not the right word. We're forming a coalition that has to see through many different ideological lines. But when I see, I think somebody pointed this out earlier, it's like when Dave Smith, Mike Cernovich, and Zayed Jalani agree on Israel and what we have to do, that's a sign. That's a sign that something can happen. So let's figure out how we can do that. We could get back to fighting about what healthcare should be and what it shouldn't be very soon. But in the meantime, we have to collectively work together. That's why Ron's here. That's why Zane is in the chat. Steve is probably here too. And again, that network that continues to build, we have to do what we can to get this message out there. I wouldn't give a damn. I don't think you would either, Ron, as far as the Israelis or the Zionists are concerned. If they wanted to hate everybody walking God's green earth, who cares? But we're involved. And they're using our nation as a proxy to do a genocide. We should never stop talking about this until we have completely severed those ties. I believe that's our mission.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I mean, no disputing that. I think that, I mean, the only way to get there is through a straight up general strike. I mean, we can all podcast until we're blue in the face, and that's great. We need a communication vehicle, but yeah, I mean, unless the system is just completely shut down, the war machine's going to keep going. I mean, we're Rome. I mean, we're just another, we're the modern day Rome. We're the modern day empire. We are hitting that 250-year mark, which is how long most of these last. The United States as we know it, that's not including the people who were here first, who we stole everything from. But the United States as we know it is hitting that 250 mark. That's pretty much how long these empires last. We're foolish to think that we'd be any different. So yeah, I mean, it's the empire is crumbling. I think the entire world will be better off when the United States is just another country, and it's all about how we get there. And we're either going to get there in a very, very brutal fashion or a less brutal fashion. I would prefer the latter. And I think the only way that latter is an option is if we have a full-fledged general strike. I mean, the most reassuring things that have happened, in conflicts like this is when you have those instances when, dockers refuse to ship the weapons and things like that, which, by the way, has happened multiple times over the years. And you know what? To kind of play devil's advocate a little bit, when that happened the first time in Livorno, Italy, I didn't hear many people talking about it on the YouTube sphere. I saw virtually nobody talking about it because it wasn't as good for clicks as some other things. But those types of activities, those are the things that really do bust a hole. If you're saying, hey, these weapons aren't going anywhere, we are not shipping these weapons. And what are you going to do? Because we run this freaking machine. We're the dockers. We're the bones. We're the backbone. So what are you going to do? That stuff. That's what needs to happen en masse. And not just when it comes to, I mean, of course, when it comes to Israel, Palestine, but when it comes to everything, when it comes to, Russia, Ukraine, when it comes to the Middle East, when it comes to everything. I mean, until there is just a massive shutting down of the war machine, it's going to continue. I mean, you can talk, oh, well, this politician and this politician, they agree on something and they're usually ideological opposed. Okay, well, at the end of the day, only like 2 or 3 people vote a certain way when it comes to defense. So that doesn't really matter much, nor does it matter much when a handful of personalities have one thing in common and 99 things not in common. That doesn't really make a difference except for clicks for a handful of people. But you shut it down, you shut it the fuck down. And the people who shut it down, they're usually not even tuning into shows like this. It's just a reality. I'm not trying to be disparaging. Again, communication vehicles are important, but that is what will make a difference. And I think the reason we didn't hear about that stuff is because the powers that be, the corporate media who serves the elite, they know that. They didn't want you to know about that. They didn't want you to know how powerful the Teamsters really were up in Seattle. They didn't want you to know about that. They didn't want you to know how powerful it really was when those weapons weren't being said. They didn't want you to know that.
Well, I got to tell you, that's a really great point, because the story about Paddy McCorry and what he did over the weekend with that IDF soldier in the UFC fight, when I tell you that no American major outlet has covered that, the story's been covered a million times over internationally. Like, you could just look it up and there are news articles all over the world, but there is no major publication in the United States that has covered that story. So that really goes to show you, when people ask, how are we so propagandized here in the States? Well, that's the fourth estate working as it was intended. And while I do agree with you that not a lot of the people who are going to bring about the change that we're seeking are going to necessarily see our channel, we might get lucky. And we've built relationships with a lot of labor people, and everything is going to come through labor. That's where the change is going to happen. And as much as the heads of Palantir are going to try their very darn best to make sure that we can't do that, we have to overcome heavy odds. But remember, they may have the power, but we've got the numbers in spades. Like, it's not even a question. There's only a sliver of people that really have control, but they got a lot of it, but hopefully not for long. If you guys are here, and as you know, it is still a small but mighty channel, but we're growing. If you would be so inclined, please go to patreon.com/generational change for as little as $5 a month. You become a supporter of our small but mighty channel. To our wonderful crowd that is here this evening, a big shout out to S. Jarrah with the $1.99 super sticker. Thank you so much. Coffee Lover, thank you so much for the $5. My super chat keeps getting denied for mentioning the MMA topic, and it's so annoying. Subscribed. We appreciate you being here, and especially for the $5. Victoria P, thank you for the $2.79 Canadian A. Ron, my paisano, do you still talk to Jimmy?
Not really. The last time I texted with him was when his dog Brownie passed away.
Oh, God.
And I had, I'd been off the show. I'd quit the show a while ago at that point. So it had been a long time, but yeah, I saw that. And so I just texted and said, hey, really sorry to hear about Brownie. Brownie was always in the studio. He was a really sweet dog. So, I was sad to hear it. So I texted him about Brownie, and he texted me back and said thanks. And that was it. We didn't get into any political discussion or anything like that. It was just solely about Brownie. But yeah, that was the last time I talked to him, and it was, if you count over text, because it was over text, and that was I guess that was a couple years ago at this point.
It's hard to believe it's been that long, despite the differences.
Been a while.
Yeah, despite the differences and the obvious ones that exist in the sphere. With Jimmy, I've always felt that Jimmy's attitude was his biggest hindrance in so many ways. But above everything else, a big shout out to Jimmy. He's been on board in support of the Palestinian people from day one. And we have to remember that in these spaces, even if we have disagreements, especially on critical issues like Israel-Palestine, never forget the ones that are there, that are using their platform to make that change. And to Jimmy's credit, he has done that. Chris Peters, thank you so much for the £5. I think that's worth more than $5. So we appreciate it. Keep up the good work, guys. Please follow Owen Jones in the UK, as he is such a great speaker for Palestine on YouTube. Colin, Brett, if you could make note of that, that would be super. Definitely check him out. See if we can collaborate.
Where are you at in the UK, Chris?
Yeah,
I wish I was going to Edinburgh this year. Unfortunately, I'm not. But yeah, I'm gonna be sad when August comes around. I'm not in Edinburgh.
Tony D, always a
What's
pleasure.
up, Tony D? Good to see you, buddy.
And one of our longtime supporters of our channel, and we really appreciate you being here. Quintessential with the 25 is that Hong Kong? Is that what HK is? I'm not 100% sure.
Oh man, I'm not sure either, which is kind of embarrassing. We don't know. We don't know these currencies, but yeah. I can read this since it's to me.
Go for it.
Since I never see Ron live anywhere. First of all, that needs to change. All right, I am on Status Quo pretty regularly. And then my own channel, I started a new podcast a couple years ago that not a lot of people have found yet because it's different than the other stuff I had done. It is called 1000 with Ron Placone. And the premise of it is I go on a quest to interview 1,000 different people that have inspired me in some way. So some of the guests are music, some of the guests are filmmakers, some of the guests are political, some of the guests are journalists, some of the guests are radical academics. Like, it's a hodgepodge. Some of them are very famous. Some of them you've probably not heard of, but you're going to want to check them out anyway. And we are, our 90th episode is about to drop, and the guest is Peter Joseph. So these are extensive interviews because they're one and done. They're not super long, but I really kind of cut to the meat of it because these interviews are one and done. So you can check that out on my YouTube channel, which is just Ron Placone, or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And I post clips of that, as well as stand-up clips and everything else. And then as far as like my political stuff, I stream on Status Quo very regularly. I will actually be hosting there tomorrow, because Jordan is on paternity leave, and I'm hoping to be, after Jordan is off paternity leave, we're working on a way that I can still be regular there. So there's no reason to miss me. I am still around. But let me get to their question. You're going too fast. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry. But let me get I didn't get to. All right. Has he thought more about practicalities of leaving the USA since his artsy Marxist convo? So first of all, thank you for listening to 1000 first and foremost, because they're referencing 1000. That was a guest on 1000, a artist named Artsy Marxist who fled the US for Mexico. And yeah, I think about it a lot. If I'm telling you the truth, I think about the practicalities a lot because I have toured other parts of the world and I like it. And Southern California is the industry here is eating its own tail and quite literally suiciding itself. So just from a practical standpoint, I, like everybody else in the biz, have moments where I wonder, why the fuck am I here? Because here's the deal. I love my neighborhood. I really do. As far as neighborhoods go, it would be tough for me to beat San Pedro. We got the beach. We got excellent cuisine because it's LA's Little Italy. We got an amazing punk rock subculture, some of the best in the world, and that's all within walking distance. It'd be tough for me to beat this neighborhood with all the things that I freaking like in a place. But holy shit, is it expensive. And the reason people like me live in Southern California is because we make a bargain that we're going to live in a place where there's resources that aren't really available anywhere else in the world as far as film and TV and writing, et cetera, et cetera. And in exchange for that, we are going to pay out the ass just to breathe. If that other side of the bargain doesn't exist, well, then all of a sudden, I'm just a dude who lives in a really, really cool beach neighborhood, but holy fuck, it's not the price it costs level cool. I don't think anywhere is. So I'm wondering, what should I do next? Which makes me think about places outside the United States because yeah, for a number of reasons. So to make a longer answer, yes is the answer to your question. And I'm mighty fond of Edinburgh at the moment because, and I'm going to be writing a piece about this in the not too distant future, but Italy changed their rules recently in a way that did not benefit people in my situation. I don't have time to expand on that now. It would just hijack the entire stream. But yeah, to make a long answer longer, yes, I do. And thank you for checking out 1000.
Well, that was a great explanation. Oh, I will say, Huntington Beach, well, Manhattan Beach is pretty nice. But overall, I was recently in Southern California, Old Town in San Diego. That's a great neighborhood.
San Diego's beautiful, man. But again, dude, it costs so much. It's so San Diego's almost as much as LA.
Yeah. Well, if you had any type of a real mass transit system, high-speed rail, all the things that should exist.
Oh my God.
For anybody who has never been to Southern California and does not understand the traffic between LA and San Diego, well, experience it just once and you'll probably never want to go back because it's that bad.
Dude, I'm telling you, like, sorry, I know I'm very chatty, and this always happens when I'm guest on shows like this. We always like go off on like some tangent about music or travel or something. and I feel like half the audience is really into it and the other half is like, shut the fuck up. But I was up in Seattle recently and I got to see, I lived in Seattle for a couple years. And so I got to see a light rail that I never got to experience before, but I did get to vote for because I was living there when it was on the ballot and I voted for it. What, you're thumbs downing a light rail?
No, I'm thumbs downing the fact that Manhattan Beach is a Zionist cocoon, which I'm not. I'm not
going to be like, what the fuck, Peter?
Yeah,
yes. Oh yeah. Amen to that. But yeah.
I hate to say it, but great food in Manhattan Beach.
Manhattan Beach?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, come to Pedro, man. I think we can beat Manhattan Beach.
Well, I mean, yeah. Well, I mean, of course, with Southern California, I always associate Japanese, which is where I went. Forgot the name of the restaurant. It was a great spot.
Yeah, but anyway, it was really cool to be in a place with amazing transit, and then it's like, and we don't have this in Los Angeles. There's a lot of people. I mean, the Olympics are going to take place in LA in 2028. There's going to be people from all over the world that are going to be going, what the fuck? Because they're used to Paris and they're going to be like, this is Los Angeles. This is one of the cities of the world. We basically have to rent a car. It's ridiculous. And
It is.
honestly, I mean, whenever I deal with internet or encounter international tourists and in shows, it's like embarrassing even because they're just like, well, what's the deal with like the trade? And I'm like, "Well, you pretty much have to rent a car if you want to get to this neighborhood. I mean, when my cousin came to visit from Italy, he was freaking blown away that it's like he needed a car. I mean, he kind of knew what to expect because he's actually a travel agent for a job, so he knew that like, oh yeah, California, you got to freaking drive. But yeah, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And yeah, for the Olympics, we are going to be very embarrassed. The whole world is going to be laughing at us, and we freaking deserve it.
We do. And we also deserve an opportunity to recognize that so much of the stupidity that exists within our culture is kind of self-inflicted in a lot of ways. So many of these problems are easily correctable, and yet we kind of bring it on ourselves. And so I believe that what we experienced over the last few days regarding what happened with Glenn Greenwald is something that we should all see as sort of like a time capsule in many ways, because it really brought a lot of people together that maybe otherwise wouldn't agree politically on a number of issues. But this particular issue, which we sniffed out from the very beginning, was pretty obvious. Glenn Greenwald is the most reputable and outspoken Jewish journalist against the Palestinian genocide. Israel trying to kink shame a gay man for exposing their war crimes is very on brand. Thankfully, their stranglehold over our economic and political system is starting to crack. Now, I know there's a lot of people out there who have said, well, it's fallen apart and it's not really, going to last. I'm like, well, I'm kind of in Ron's camp in that I believe it is going to fall, but not just yet. It is cracking 100%. And you know what? You can have your opinion, but again, we live in a world where people have the right to do whatever the fuck they want behind closed doors, and that's it. You don't like gay people? That's your problem, not ours. It shouldn't be anybody's. And this is the issue that they want to use. But the good news is, ladies and gentlemen, is that most people don't think like Northern Hillbilly. They don't. Most people, see, just as Sarah said, Glenn is gay. Did his husband know? Well, his husband unfortunately did pass away. And love to Glenn. That's what people always have to say. It's always some form of, well, Glenn is this and Glenn is that. Yeah. As Chris Garrett, friend of both of our shows, says, it is 100% a coordinated campaign. That's what's going on. So,
well, and I want to add this because I mean, this was kind of all over the Twitter sphere and the blogosphere over the weekend, and so like a lot of people have weighed in on it. But one of the things that I think people haven't been highlighting as much is the fact that not only is this like a smear campaign, but this is also revenge porn. And that is a very, very cruel thing to do to anybody. And it's really messed up. I mean, I've not watched the video for that reason. I won't
watch it either.
I will not watch it. And I think the way Glenn handled it was good. And I mean, yeah, I think people should highlight that part of it, that is messed up. It is a crime. Revenge porn is a crime. And I think there's a federal law, but there's definitely like a lot of state laws against revenge porn. It's a terrible, terrible thing to do to a person. And if you don't like look, Glenn Greenwald says a lot of things about a lot of different things. And I mean, I'm just speaking for myself. I have found some of his journalism to be absolutely incredible, and I appreciate it very much. I have had other times where I've not cared for his point of view as much. There's been times where I've agreed with him 100%. There have been times where I've disagreed with him. It's irrelevant, though. It really is. It's irrelevant. When it comes to doing revenge porn, against a journalist for no reason other than to try to destroy them. It's a just gross freaking thing to do. So anyone who's just like, well, I don't like Glenn Greenwald, it's like, whether you like him or not, it's freaking irrelevant. It's like this is disturbing what they did to the guy, and kudos for him for not, for taking the high ground and being like, yeah, what I do, in the privacy of my home with consenting adults is 110% my business and no one else's. And if you have a problem, oh well. So good for him.
We are going to read Glenn's statement in a minute. We are not going to talk about the contents. He was involved in, I guess, some form of kinky sex with another man. Who gives a fuck? Like, honestly, does it personally bother you? The only people that should truly bother are people that are closeted homosexual and they just can't accept who they really are. That's generally the people who scream the loudest, as we've learned in the years.
Yeah, no kidding.
But little did people realize that there was a reason for this. Now, say what you want about Tucker Carlson, but he clearly turned a corner for whatever reason, probably within like the last year, I would say, maybe 2. But this is an excerpt from an interview that was done just 2 days prior to when this expose was released on Glenn Greenwald.
The set of files we released described the intelligence relationship that we have with Israel, the NSA has with Israel. Israel is the #1 recipient of NSA technology and NSA intelligence. We share more with Israel, even more than we do with the Five Eyes partners who develop this technology. We give more to Israel, more intelligence, raw intelligence about Americans as well, and more intelligence know-how. But at the same time, the documents that describe who are our greatest intelligence threats, who are our greatest intelligence adversaries, who spies on us the most, who is capable of spying out the most, #1 on the list is Israel as well.
There it is. And now, when you think about what Trump is doing, I mean, my God, if there's one thing we can say, and I don't want to hear nothing about this is 4D chess and Trump is doing this and Trump is doing that. I have always maintained, for those of you who followed me, a very neutral opinion about Trump. I will give you an honest answer on a particular issue where I think he was potentially right, or if he's just wrong. Here's where we know Donald Trump is not playing 4D chess. He took $100 million from the biggest Zionist, the Zionist queen, as I call her, Miriam Adelson. You want to know who the face of Zionism is? That's the face of Zionism. And she gave Trump $100 million to be reelected president of the United States. You think that doesn't come with certain strings attached? Like, we will take the West Bank? That's what this is.
Yeah, I don't have a neutral opinion on Donald Trump. I think Donald Trump is a warmongering fascist. He is orchestrating a fascist coup in the United States right now. He is an absolute war criminal. He wants to make Gaza into a golf course for himself. He wants to reap Ukraine's mineral rights. He is just the same as the entire U.S. war machine, and any little rhetorical clips that he had, it was all just bullshit. He had the first term to prove that he wasn't a warmonger, because he had a little bit of anti-war rhetoric in there because he knew it was what people wanted to hear. He had his first term to prove that he wasn't a warmonger, and he didn't. And everyone's like, well, technically he didn't start a new war. You're right there. I'll give you that. But the main reason for that is because of the pandemic. He was war rattling with Iran, and he wanted to get his war with Iran, but he didn't because of the pandemic. So it's kind of a bullshit metric to pat him on the back for that. And now we see he's the same warmonger as everyone else. If you needed the second time around to learn that lesson, shame on you, because the evidence was there after the first time. But yeah, here it is.
And now they're coming with Palantir. And Palantir is run by its own set of Zionists, led by Alex Karp, who minces no words about what their intentions are with the state of Israel. I mean, Karp and Joe, guys, fill me in, because the guy blocked us on Twitter and we've never even communicated with. I always love those guys, the ones that decide to preemptively block you because there may be information that's getting out there about them that they just don't want to hear about. But I think it's like Joe Lonsdale, I think is his name. He's another one. He's part of the PayPal mafia, and he's a Zionazi and the whole 9 yards and part of Palantir, and they're all gleefully on board with what's going on right now. So the intersection in so many ways with what Glenn is talking about here and why they felt the need to do this to him is because he, as much as anybody, is exposing Israel not just for its genocide, but for its intentions and what the unholy alliance that exists with them and our State Department. Call it the deep state, call it what you want. It's all connected. And this is what they're doing. So it shouldn't surprise anybody that Glenn got, I don't even know what the right word would be. It's not exposed because that's not what it is. They wanted to shame him.
It's revenge. I mean, I think revenge
porn
porn
is
does
the best
it just
thing. You're
fine.
right.
They
You're right.
hacked. I mean, and this was not. I mean, that's what makes it revenge porn. Like Glenn Greenwald did not post this video. I mean, this was his private video, and it got exposed basically. So yeah, I mean, it's revenge porn.
Colin, please get the message from Glenn ready.
Well, obviously the Israelis use, the most dangerous spying programs like Pegasus and others come from Israel, are developed by Israel, are controlled by the Israelis, by which I simply mean to say that Israel uses every weapon at its disposal, including gathering incriminating information about its enemies.
And that's what they do. And it should not come as any surprise that this is what happened. And so Glenn issued a statement to his credit, didn't mince words, was very direct, and kudos to him because he does not pull any punches here. Last night, and this was a few nights ago, last night videos were released online depicting behavior in my private life. Some were distorted, others were not. They were published without my knowledge or consent, and its publication was therefore criminal. As Ron pointed out, revenge porn is illegal. Though we do not yet know exactly who was responsible, we are close to knowing, and the motive was a maliciously political one. Couldn't have made it more obvious. As for the content of the videos, I have no embarrassment or regret about any of them. The videos depict consenting adults engaging in intimate actions in their private lives. They all display fully consensual behavior, harming nobody. Obviously, it can be uncomfortable and unpleasant when your private behavior is made public against your will. That's why the behavior is private in the first place. But the only wrongdoing here is the criminal and malicious publication of the videos in an attempt to malign perceived political enemies and advance a political agenda. Others are, of course, free to form their own judgments, as some are prone to do about others' private lives. It won't change my work. I will continue all the many prongs of my journalism and pursue the causes most important to me exactly as before.
Yeah, good for him. Good response. And you know what? Side note on all this, I really got to give a shout out. I love the way that Gen Z kind of like gives us credit for certain points of view. Because I am of the point of view that consenting adults can do whatever the fuck they want. Consenting adults, do whatever you want. That's your business. I always thought that was just minding your own fucking business and being a reasonable human being. But turns out, thanks to Gen Z, you are sex positive. Huh? I did a thing. I thought I was just minding my own business. Turns out there's actually a word for it. Good for me. Thanks, Gen Z.
Well, I think his response was fantastic. And I think the responses online were just as great. But it was pretty obvious. We could pull up a whole bunch of different tweets, but the usual suspects in terms of the people who you would expect to say negative things about Glenn were all people supporting the Israel Zionist cause, and virtually everybody else. And I mean everybody else. As I said before, Dave Smith, Brianna Joy Gray, Zayed Jalani, Mike Cernovich, Charlie Kirk, Bachia, however you say her last name, who's a Zionist, full blown. Who else am I forgetting? Caitlin Johnstone, Jimmy Dore, us. Universal support for Glenn Greenwald. No mincing words. And everyone, to a man, woman, and child, doesn't need the evidence to know who is the guilty party, because they make it so obvious with their actions. So keep doing it. It's not getting you anywhere other than a faster nosedive into irrelevance. I can only hope, as I've said before, especially regarding the Palestinian people, especially the children, most of them are going to die. I just hope that they don't die in vain. It is our responsibility to hold those accountable for doing just that. Glenn Greenwald is holding those mass murderers accountable for what they're doing. And we cannot let them get away with their old tactics that they've been so accustomed to doing for so very long. It is on us to make sure that justice is done. Bravo to Glenn. I don't agree with everything that he does. I don't need to, but I agree with a lot of it. And he is one hell of a journalist. And I think you would agree, Ron. All of that aside, the one thing we constantly have to be mindful of, as we also bring the whole conversation with Trump and Palantir full circle, we are losing our ability to express ourselves in an honest way. Our free speech rights have been severely decimated.
Our free speech rights are gone. It's over. I mean, it reminds me of my friend Robin Tran. She's very, very funny comedian. She has a bit where she goes, I think the United States loves free speech so much because it's literally all they have. like we just have nothing else. And so it's like the one thing that I actually think our free speech laws are very good. Like the way the laws are written, I think it's a pretty decent way to go about free speech compared to other nations' free speech laws. Not that I'm like a constitutional legal expert or anything like that, but based on my remedial reading of it,
you can play one on TV.
I can't play one on TV. Yeah, I can play one on TV. But yeah, but based on my, hobbyist, legal interpretation stuff, which I do get, I am a policy geek. I think our free speech laws are actually pretty freaking good. And they're just completely being decimated right now. Because what we're really learning, again, this just gets back to the whole, this is a fascist coup. There is no sugarcoating it. There is no downplaying it. This is a
100% a merging of the corporate state. No two ways about it.
So it's like the law doesn't matter when nobody's enforcing it. The law doesn't matter when, we can have something on paper. We still have free speech laws on paper, but that really doesn't matter when nobody's enforcing it. And when you are kicking down the doors of college kids because they attended a Palestine protest, and you're kicking down their doors with no due process, no warrant, no nothing, and you're getting away with it, and nothing's being done, and you're withholding degrees from people because they speak out about this stuff, and you're seeing, revenge porn being done on journalists. I wonder if the people responsible will face any consequences, because revenge porn is a crime. When you see guns pointed at student protesters, I used to protest the Iraq War because that's my age, and I protested the Iraq War at Indiana University, the same place where I stood and protested Iraq. There are students now protesting what's going on in Palestine, and the big difference between my era and their era, in my era, there was not somebody standing on a building that I can still see, that I can still picture in my head. There was never somebody standing on that building with a gun pointed on us. That never happened. A couple frat boys would say something pro-Bush. That was about it. Maybe somebody would throw something. That was it. There was never somebody with a gun pointed. But that's what those students had. They had somebody with a gun pointed at them while they were protesting against the genocide. So no, our freedom of speech, it has been completely freaking eroded. They are deporting people without due process. They are deporting people illegally. They are sending people to El Salvador illegally. And this is all by design. This is all by design. They're going after the easiest groups first. It's really easy to go after the transgender community. It's really easy to go after the immigrants. It's really easy to go after the peace protesters. It's really easy to go after the socialists, the communists. But you know what? They're not going to stop there. They're going to keep going. And if you think they're on your side, I hate to break it to you. They're not. You're not in their club. You're just not. And by the way, this is a tried and true method. You know who Elon Musk really, really looks up to? He really looked up to his granddaddy. And you know who his granddaddy was? A frickin' Nazi. Not an embellishment, not a hyperbole. That guy was a Nazi. Elon Musk is a Nazi. Ron DeSantis is a Nazi. RFK is a eugenicist. That's what's going on in our government, not an embellishment. This is a frickin' fascist coup, and a fascist coup can maintain the war state even better than the shitty status quo we had before could.
Yeah, it's not looking too good right now, but I do believe that a lot of times the night is always darkest before the dawn, and that's why when things tend to get as bad as they have gotten, there is going to be sort of this overflow that is going to end up happening. That's correct. This is not satire. Definitely not. This is real life, and things are going to continue to spiral. But as things spiral, and we as Americans get frustrated, ever more so, because of how much our country is deteriorating before our eyes, eventually you have to make a choice. Either you fight back, or it is without question going to be a nightmare, even worse than what we're living in right now, which again is why we emphasize that we have to put differences aside. I'd like to think that most people are starting to evolve past the whole idea of the essence of electoral politics being the end all be all. Not that it doesn't still have merit, it does, but there's so much more to what we need to do outside of that issue. We will not vote our way into a social democracy. That will not happen. We're going to have to fight for it. Are you willing to fight? That's going to be the big question. Now, I brought you on here tonight because I did want to have a little side step of social commentary, because I think it's important. And I think we don't need to just solely focus on all the, kind of bloodshed that's in front of us at the moment. For any of you that are millennials, Ron, you were born in 85, 86? 84. Okay, I'm 83. So we are older millennials. We were able to grow up in a very unique time with very unique shows on TV. We actually are the Fox kids in many ways, because Fox TV kind of came out when we were very young. And during that time, there were a handful of different shows that were making the rounds and being successful. But there was one show in particular that I think came to define our generation in a lot of ways, and that was The Simpsons. And this was a show that it really, we're going to play you guys a clip in a second. You're going to enjoy this. So I would definitely agree that seasons 3 through 8 was the crescendo of the show's apex, especially seasons 4 and 6. Some of the best social commentary ever. And it's a cartoon. And you think about George Meyer, John Swartzwelder, and of course, Conan O'Brien, and a number of others that have been writers on the show, Dave Merkin. They were the real heroes of social commentary for a while. I've always liked Conan. I've always thought he was great.
Yeah, he is great.
And so this is a reflection of how the show itself didn't know when to say when. And they should have. And here's why.
Surface, it was an animated sitcom about a dysfunctional family, but underneath, it was a masterclass in satire, philosophy, emotional storytelling, and cultural critique. The Simpsons captured the contradictions of the American family so well that it felt like therapy disguised as comedy. It gave us Homer, not as a one-note idiot, But as a blue-collar everyday man burdened by routine and broken systems, a man who drinks too much, screws up constantly, and somehow makes us feel seen, Lisa was more than a precocious child. She was the show's conscience. A stand-in for every kid who felt out of place in their own family or too smart for their surroundings. Bart was the chaos of youth, a true trickster spirit, rebelling against a society that had already dismissed him. Marge was an unsung hero, the emotional anchor, the moral compass, the one who kept everything from collapsing, even when no one thanked her. Maggie was a silence, an observer of all this chaos surrounding her, and yet we felt like we were in her shoes. In the episode Lisa's Substitute, we watch a young girl form a fragile connection with the only adult who trusted her, only to lose him to the realities of adulthood and responsibility. In Homer the Heretic, we explore the nuances of spirituality, personal belief, and social conformity, all wrapped in a story about skipping church. Around season 9, The Simpsons began to crack, not suddenly, but more like a slow leak you never notice until the room's already flooded. The signs were subtle at first, jokes leaned more into randomness than satire. Plots became surreal without the emotional grounding that once made them absurd and hit harder. The show that once dissected culture began drifting aimlessly through it. And much of that shift happened behind the scenes. The core writing team, the weird, the brilliant minds who'd once shaped the tone, the rhythm, and the soul of The Simpsons started to leave. Names like Conan O'Brien, Greg Daniels, and George Meyer were replaced by a new generation of writers who, while talented, didn't write with the same voice. The transition was quiet but seismic. The sharp cultural critiques gave away the gags that were louder but emptier. Homer, once a complex, tragic figure of working-class struggle and self-sabotage, developed into jerk-ass Homer, a man who yelled more and existed purely to generate slapstick. The emotional arcs, once so carefully balanced between pathos and parody, were flattened into episodic chaos. Celebrities who once served as a clever self-aware cameo, like Dustin Hoffman or Michael Jackson, now appeared for no other reason but to say, "Look, it's them!" The satire no longer came from a place of truth. It was replaced with spectacle. The Simpsons had become more aware of its own success, and like many long-running franchises, that self-awareness turned toxic. It stopped becoming a reflection of the world and started mimicking its own legacy, recycling tropes, and leaning on familiarity like a crutch. Episodes began referencing previous episodes instead of real life. The show would refer to itself to the point of creative decay, like a snake eating its own tail. Even visually, the show started to lose its identity. The transition to digital animation made everything cleaner, but...
And there is one of the key factors in why the show, I felt, really went to hell. And it's amazing. It's like we're talking about a show that went to hell almost 25 years ago. Which is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, dude, something that we do in the States. So this is the thing. Like in the United States, and yeah, I mean, I honestly, if I'm being totally honest with you, I think the last time, I think it's been about 20 years since I've watched The Simpsons. So like I'll just take this videos, you know. I mean, I could tell you about the last time I watched it. It was more recent than 20 years ago. But based on my experience, I'm inclined to, you know, agree with the notion of this video. But the thing that we do, you know, just bigger picture here in the States is ratings just rule. And The Simpsons has built such a dynasty that there will always be the ratings there for Simpson replays and for just new episodes of, like, people are just going to tune in. It's just such an established brand. So they're just going to keep making it and making it and making it until that bottom line doesn't make any sense. And it's, you know, like they got the animation pretty down packed. It's not like they need to reinvent anything as far as the animation goes. So they're just going to keep making it. In other places, that's not how it works. You know, in the UK, for instance, and I'm not saying that the UK is perfect, but it is different. And I think it's a lot better in this regard. When you have something like the BBC, that does just have a cultural wing that isn't solely driven by profit, they don't allow things to get to that point. Like they'll just do, like, most things are just a couple seasons and then maybe they do a movie and then that's it. Because they're like, the story is told, it's time to move on to something else. Here in the US, it's just like, well, the ratings determine whether or not the creative juices get to keep flowing. That's why sometimes you'll watch a TV show and you'll feel like it ended and then there's another season. Well, yeah, they thought it was going to end. They weren't sure if they were getting another season. And then all of a sudden they were told that they were. So they had to kind of come up with something. I think, if I'm being honest, and I did enjoy the first few seasons, but then I feel like it kind of went off the rails. I think the TV show Lost is a good example of that. I thought that show was absolutely brilliant. And then it got more and more popular. So I think they got some seasons they weren't anticipating, and it kind of got a little crazy in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, The Simpsons, it's kind of the same story. I mean, it definitely was some of the most brilliant satire ever done that has been felt amidst the world, and that legacy has been well deserved and is freaking awesome. And I think it's realistic to say that a show like that will have a golden age. A show like that, will reach a peak that it might not quite touch again. I mean, sometimes it's just a matter of, you captured lightning in a bottle for a handful of time. But yeah, I mean, at this point, it's just been so freaking long that it's just like, I mean, what else could you do with it at this point? And, like things have changed so much. I mean, yeah, it's just one of those things. And I'll tell you, the last Simpsons episode I watched, because when you sent this to me, I started thinking about it. Lisa went through, they basically did a parody about the Smiths. And Lisa went through a phase where she got really into the Smiths and Morrissey. And of course, it was a different name, like Morrissey was called Willoughby or something like that. Mm-hmm. And there was a different name for the band. It was something that wasn't the Smiths. I don't remember what it was. But I thought that was like such a funny premise. It's so appropriate, like for Lisa to have a Smiths phase. And Morrissey, for anyone who knows Morrissey, he's become a bit insufferable in recent years. He's become like super right wing and stuff like that. And so the whole episode, it was like parts of it were kind of funny. There was actually a parody song that they did that I don't know. Somebody who's in a prominent band wrote the song, and it was actually really good. Like, it was a funny song. It was good satire, and it was actually kind of a banger of a tune. But then, like, the episode just sort of unraveled into just basically, oh, these writers really hate what Morrissey's become, and they want to let you know. And that was it. And it was a little just kind of disappointing. It got a little cringy. I mean, there were parts of the episode that were cool, but then like it sort of got a little bit cringy, and I was a little just like, yeah, I get it. Morrissey's, kind of a D-bag now, but I mean, this is really kind of on the nose. I don't know. I'm a little disappointed. But
that's why sometimes we are very grateful, I would say, for being able to grow up when we did, that we were able to live through those Sunday nights, those Thursday nights, because they interchanged back and forth a few times. But I can remember so many different cultural inflection points that were so big. Danny DeVito was a guest voice, Michael Jackson, Dustin Hoffman. I remember my substitute, the Lisa Substitute, very well. Then that Lisa Substitute episode was followed up with the Radioactive Man comic book episode, which was great. I mean, all of these are just kind of defining moments of our youth and what they, were trying to convey. But then they just got better and better and better. I remember the Flaming Moe's episode was such a genius episode, and the way it played into Cheers in such an effective way. I think about Homer at the bat when they had all of the baseball.
Yeah. Oh, it's such a cool.
You're talking softball from May to Sandy. It's like you just know you've got lightning in a bottle. And then they really took it to the next level when they did Marge versus the Monorail. And that set off like a string of episodes that is the strongest the show has ever done. There's the Duffless episode where Homer goes to the Duff Brewery and has to give up beer for a month. Okay, starting tomorrow, no beer for a month. Psst, what was that noise? I was saying, Psst, I love you. It's like you can't recreate that. You can't try to get around that. That's either something you just instinctively, naturally know. It's like George Carlin. There is only one. There's only one George Carlin. Listen, I think Bill Burr does an excellent job. I think he channels Carlin in a number of ways, but he's not George Carlin.
Well, I mean, it's two different things, man. I mean, it's two different eras. It's two different styles. I mean, I think their stand-up is not In fact, in many ways, what they do is almost opposite. I mean, yeah, they're both stand-ups, but Bill Burr's, strongest thing is like the way he can just go off on a topic and he can just rant, and that's really what makes Bill Burr Bill Burr. George Carlin's the total opposite of that. George Carlin's a writer first,
Yeah.
like he wrote all those books. When you really listen to George Carlin's specials, it's like every single word down to the word is, totally planned out and totally set. Is one of those things better than the other? I don't think so. They're just different and they're both great. So yeah, I mean, but I get what you're saying though. And I love them both as a listener. And yeah, I mean, I love Bill Burr. I love what he's doing now, especially. And I mean, I was a huge Carlin fan. Got to check out his record collection, which was a pretty cool moment for me.
Nice.
But yeah, I mean, we did grow up in a golden era for television. I'll tell you something, and this is because, I mean, now you can like revisit all this stuff because it's available like just amidst the streamers and stuff. A show that was like so cutting edge satire. And I knew it back then, but now that I'm older and I'm revisiting it, some of the stuff that went over my head when I was in middle school isn't going over my head now, is Daria.
Not familiar.
Daria is brilliant. So Daria was basically an offshoot of Beavis and Butthead. She was in Beavis and Butthead, and she was the only girl that talked to Beavis and Butthead. And so she got her own show, and it's called Daria. It is so fucking good. And it always has been. I mean, I love Daria even when it came out, but I've been revisiting some of those seasons. Zainab, I figured you would like Daria. Awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. But yeah, I've been revisiting some of those seasons, and they're so fucking good.
Nice.
Yeah, just because she was very intelligent. And like that was kind of the premise of the character. So it's like she calls out capitalism and stuff like that. And I mean, this is stuff like they would never let this on a network now. So yeah, Daria is really fucking badass. And just all the kind of layers to Trent, who is like, that's Daria's crush. Anyway, I don't want to, but Daria, I recommend it.
And I also think that that's in a lot of ways a reflection of where, the Simpsons were for a long time. Even today, an episode that aired over 30 years ago, I can easily go back and watch it because it was so good. I thought that they had that run in season 4. Like I said, it was like 5 or 6 episodes. That's where Marge versus the Monorail, the Duffless episode, the Bigger Brothers episode where Homer gets into the fist fight with the guy Tom, who's played by Phil Hartman. That's hysterical. There's the Last Exit to Springfield where Homer becomes the union boss. There was so much greatness to where the show was at that point. And then I think it had its absolute high point in season 6 because it had the combination of the hilarity and the writing and the social commentary. The episode with Sideshow Bob as a Republican mayoral candidate. I mean, it was so good. So good.
Which is kind of interesting too, because Sideshow Bob was, at least at one point, was voiced by Kelsey Grammer, who's a huge right winger in real life.
He is, and that's what made. But he could laugh at himself, and that's what made it enjoyable. They really.
Yeah, I don't know if he still can, but yeah, at one point he could. I don't know if he's, because I think the reason a lot of the people didn't come back for the new Frasier is because of him. I think.
I definitely agree with Zaina. The Cape Fear episode was so good. Who wants to drive in that cactus patch? Yeah. No, 2 against 1. I mean, it's like those little nuances that made the show so special. And yet, because of the inherent greed that is a defining characteristic of our culture, a show that should have ended 25 years ago is still going today. It's just the audacity that it isn't like a few seasons past the expiration date. It's a generation past its expiration date, which is so impressive in so many ways. But it is in a lot of ways, I think, also reflective of how we get to this place where we just don't know when enough is enough.
Well, I mean, it really reflects the state of the industry too. Like they're just gonna keep rehashing The Simpsons because they don't want to spend the resources or the energy to build the next Simpsons, and it's a shame. And that's not necessarily even the fault of The Simpsons. It's just like the way the industry works, and it's a shame, and it's only getting worse. It's almost like capitalism and art aren't compatible in any way, shape, or form. Almost. Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
The sultace, you know. And I have to say, this conversation has been fun. I hope everything is going well on your end in SoCal.
Yeah, SoCal, man. You can't beat the weather. And you know, I mean, the industry is suiciding itself, but I guess that's just kind of felt throughout the world. And I will let people know what I got going on if that's okay. So for anyone in Los Angeles, if you are in the massive sprawling metropolis that is Los Angeles, I have a play launching at the Hollywood Fringe. Our opening night is actually this coming Sunday. It's called Termination Fee. It's also going to be my next movie. We're doing it as a play and as a film. So the play is opening on June 8th. It's playing throughout June as part of the Hollywood Fringe Festival. Tickets are pay what you can. So it's a very affordable night out. Tickets are just pay what you can. The suggested is $10, but you know, tickets are pay what you can. And if times are really rough and you want to come to the show, email me and I will give you a comp code for free tickets. So yeah, come check that out. We got June 8th, June 16th, June 21st, June 24th, June 29th, and you can get all the time info on my website. And yeah, and then also my movie Left at Wall is out now. This is my second production that I'm working on now. My first movie is out already, and you can get it right here on YouTube. You don't even need to leave YouTube. You can rent it right here on YouTube. It's called Left at Wall. If you want to get it on a different platform, it's on Apple TV, it's on Google Play, it's on Xbox, it's on Amazon. I'm not a big fan of Amazon, but sometimes that's the only way people can get movies. So if you got to get your movies that way, no problem. It's on, it's on Hoopla. It's out there. It's out there. So yeah, check out Left at Wall. It is cheaper. Both things are cheaper than a Dodgers game. Way cheaper than a Dodgers game. So yeah, and you can check all that out on my website, ronplacone.com. We left links for Left at Wall and Termination Fee, the play, in the chat. And of course, ronplacone.com is the nucleus for everything. And my podcast, 1000 with Ron Placone. And yeah, thanks so much for having me, man. This was fun. And by the way, for everyone who's tuning into the YouTube stuff, I'll be hosting Status Coup tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern. So come check out Status Coup tomorrow.
Amen, brother. Great to see you. All the best. And yes, the coup is where it's at. We owe a lot to Jordan and his channel for helping us grow over the past few years. But certainly, as our channel continues to have, at least hopefully, a consistent mobility in an upward trajectory, which it looks like it is right now, can never forget the steps that have to be taken in order to get there. You do great work. Keep it up. Great to see you. All the best. We'll be talking again real soon.
Good to see you, buddy. And shout out to Jen, who couldn't be here. I hope she's having a wonderful trip. And yeah, always great to check in with you guys and look forward to seeing you again soon.
Amen. Have a great evening, my friend. I'll talk to you.
You too, buddy. Cheers.
Bye. That was fun. Hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. Obviously, a few things to cover before we go. We did get another super chat. Always have to keep an eye out for everyone who checks in. Joseph George, $2. Thank you so very much for the support. They have the plant, but we have the power. You know, they did many years ago. This is at least 20 years ago. It shows you how long the Simpsons have been around, longer than they should have been. They did a poll. I think it may have been Rolling Stone, I think may have done it. They listed the top 25 Simpsons episodes of all time. And this was done across the board in many different publications. It wasn't just one. And the number one episode universally that has been determined is The Last Exit to Springfield. If you haven't seen that episode, highly recommend it. It defines The Simpsons in so many ways. I don't want to get a copyright strike, so I'm not going to play any Simpsons clips. But you guys get the point. I think the show is reflective in a lot of what was good, but also what has changed. It hasn't changed for the better. We are on that downward trajectory at this point, but we have a lot of work ahead of us. A lot of work ahead of us. If you guys have not hit that like button, please make sure that you smash it. Please make sure that you are subscribed. Please make sure that you click the bell. And if you are so inclined, please also make sure to consider becoming a supporter of our small but mighty channel. And on perfect cue, our good friend Yalabite, thank you so much for the $9.99. Pete, us older millennials are the last to truly struggle pre-digital, walking door to door to apply for jobs, navigating the 08 crash. We lean more social dem than Gen Z raised in digital capitalism. I would agree. I would definitely say that I wouldn't necessarily say that we have a dependency on technology. I would say we have it as a necessity for sure, but I think we can live without it. In fact, if you guys want to know, I'm 83, guys. I am the first year of millennials. What I learned, my personal experience, is that the decisions we make can be reflective in what we do on a daily basis. So when we get up in the morning, we don't have to check our phone. And so what I have been consistently making a habit of doing is that when I wake up, I open a book and I read at least 15 to 20 pages just to get my mind flowing for the day. And off you go. That is a much healthier way of starting your day. It also is a lot less digital eye strain, so there's less of that problem. And so that's what I would encourage people to do. We do have a tendency to be way too technologically dependent. I often wonder what would happen if we were just completely cut off from technology. What would we do? How would we survive? I mean, I would probably struggle to a degree, but I think I would be okay. I would say that the biggest problem I would have personally is that I don't remember everybody's phone number. I remember a number of phone numbers. I think we all do. But as I said, technology, it's our greatest asset and it's our greatest detriment at the same time. Never forget that. And so we also got in a couple of additional super chats. Stasios Tapas, I hope I said that right. Stasios Tapas. Thank you so much for the $5. Although there is an A in front of that 5, so that indicates that you may be from somewhere else. If you are from, I don't want to assume, but with a name like Stasios, I assume you're from Greece, although I wouldn't expect to see an A in front of the 5. So if you can share where you're from and what the A stands for, that would be awesome. Of course, Teresa, thank you so much for the $5. Every dollar counts in helping build our channel up. It really does make a difference. And that's what we're trying to do here. As you guys know, we will be rebranding upon Jen's return. We've got lots of wonderful guests coming up. On Thursday, I will be our next co-host, guest host, if you will, is my old friend Amy C3, another SoCal progressive. If you guys are not familiar with Amy, definitely check her out. She is a huge housing advocate, not just in Southern California, but around the country. And we're going to have a number of contacts to talk to. Zone Wolf, my understanding is that 1983 is the first year of the millennial generation. That's my understanding. If somebody wants to correct me, if I'm wrong about that, by all means. But I do appreciate it. Our channel, as you know, is definitely growing. Joe, we will talk about Kshama most likely on Thursday, but it's not what I would consider to be a pressing issue right now. What I would say, just on the surface, she's running against an absolutely putrid Democrat, Adam Smith. At the same time, she is running as an independent. A state like Washington is actually probably as good an option because it's a jungle primary state. And if she has enough grassroots and financial support, she can definitely make an impact. So I think that Kshama obviously has an important voice in the left populist movement. So I do expect her to get some traction. But I just think a lot of us are, looking at electoral politics as it's not going to be what changes the game. I think getting somebody elected that isn't part of the two-party system, and Kshama would certainly fit into that category, I think would be tremendously beneficial. And I do believe that if Kshama were to get to Congress, that she would use that platform in the best way possible. I think she would treat it as a 2-year opportunity to bring as much attention to what's going on and how change needs to be made as anybody possibly could. And so, Godspeed to her. I think she'll do good. I anticipate that there's going to be a lot of bumps in the road. Adam Smith is going to get a lot of money, a lot of corporate dollars, a lot of AIPAC money. And if you just look at her statement, it is pretty decent, just in terms of, what her fight is and what she intends to do. You gotta give credit where credit's due for not mincing any words. Colin, if you want to grab Kshama's tweet, I'll pull it up. I might as well. We're talking about it now, so I'll just cover it. We'll see what happens as we go forward. But I do think that since so many of us have looked at the electoral politics pathway as not being one that is necessarily going to bring us any semblance of a real fundamental change within the system, it all depends on who you send to Capitol Hill. I'll see. And so we'll see. We'll see what happens. Kshama Sawant officially announced her candidacy for the United States Congress earlier today. She is running against Adam Smith, who I believe is that district? What district is that? Is it 6? So if somebody wants to point that out, I would definitely appreciate that. So earlier today, Kshama Sawant says, I announced my working class, anti-war, anti-genocide campaign for the U.S. Congress to defeat warmongering Democratic Congressman Adam Smith. At this point, you don't even really need to mention that he's a Democrat because they're all the same. They're all warmongers. They all get in line. If they're taking that corporate special interest money, why would they change? In this case, doesn't seem like they would. Our demands: end the genocide in Gaza. That seems like an easy one to me. No military aid, no occupation. Free health care for all. Tax the rich. We need rent control. Certainly. Make corporate landlords pay. And remember, there is a difference between regular industrial, entrepreneurial landlords and corporate landlords. Landlords that own 25,000 doors. That's a thing. Join us. Join our fight. KshamaSawant.org/donate. We need to build the strongest anti-war, anti-genocide campaign in the country to fight and defeat the rich, the warmongers, and both their parties. Key word here, both their parties. During my 10 years as the socialist of Seattle City Council, we won historic victories: the first $15 an hour minimum wage in any major city, the Amazon tax, and historic renters' rights. My office went to war for working people, not corporate interests. That is definitely true. And thank you, David Hunter. This is for Congressional District 9 in the state of Washington. Let's get organized to defeat warmongering Democratic Congressman Adam Smith and elect the socialist money can't buy to the U.S. Congress. Well, we retweeted that. We hope you guys will too. You make sure you get that message out there. I think it's very important. Well, I think Kshama is formidable for sure. I think she feels that this is just the next natural step. And yes, Ron, I do not think that they're related. Adam Smith is the purported founder of capitalism. And so Kshama does, as Sarah says, put her money where her mouth is and follows through with her promises. I agree. Northern Hillbilly is right. You can't vote your way out of tyranny. But I would like to believe that Kshama is that rare bird who would go to Capitol Hill and would fight for our rights in a way that would really fight for our rights. Unlike AOC, and unfortunately now unlike Bernie, she would take the gloves off. And to be honest, one of the reasons why I think Kshama could be very effective is because if you really think about it, she has one of the more recognizable platforms in politics. I mean, a lot of people are aware of who she is. And we know that name ID does matter. Adam Smith is not this, I mean, look, he's a total corporate whore, no two ways about it. And Travers is right. Kshama is what AOC was supposed to be. If there is a manifestation of a politician that is emblematic of what is really needed on Capitol Hill, Kshama Sawant is that person. So hopefully she catches some lightning in a bottle. And thank you very much, Joe. We really appreciate you being here. The kind words do matter. It does make a difference for sure. And again, guys, if you haven't hit that like button, please make sure that you do. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure that you click the bell. As I said, we will be live on Thursday. And I do want people that are here, that are new. I don't agree with you, Misnomer. I think a lot of people are waking up. I think things are changing. I do. Colin, the clip that you sent me of Joni Ernst, is that an apology? Is that what she did?
It's both her comment and her quote-unquote apology.
Okay. So for those of you who obviously are paying attention, and Lord knows with somebody like Kshama Sawant running for Congress, who is going to run an unapologetic campaign for universal single-payer health care, period. When you get a clip like this from vomit-inducing Senator Joni Ernst from Iowa, and thank you very much, Big Dumb Animal. It always is appreciative to have you here. Yalabite, thank you for the $1.99. How can we deal with old man Michael Savage? I wouldn't worry too much about Michael Savage. I think he's still stuck in San Francisco complaining about gays. So let him, rot in his own little corner of hell. That's his problem. I wouldn't worry too much about Michael Savage. He used to be influential, no two ways about it, but not anymore.
When you are arguing about illegals that are receiving Medicaid benefits.
That's not true. So you lie. And this is the thing. Jen always says Zionists lie when their lips are moving. Does any politician not lie when their lips are moving? Because it sure as hell seems like this is the case. Space Orbison, I like your name, and we're very happy to have you here, brother.
1.4 million. 1.4. They are not eligible, so they will be coming off. So people are not. Well, we all are going to die.
Pretty cold. Hobby Horizons, thank you for being here. And everybody who is here is welcome. And that includes people, well, we don't really want Zionists here, but whatever. Whether you're a progressive lefty, a MAGA righty, and everything in between, minus the shit libs. But I don't think any shit libs like our channel, so not really worried about that. We are about economic, populist progressivism, and some elements of libertarianism. But the labels are to be removed. And that in itself, I think, is the lesson here. And that's what we hope is the message that is conveyed. When somebody like Joni Ernst makes a statement effectively saying, well, you're all going to die, much like Alan Grayson, former congressman from Orlando, Florida, a long time ago, once said, we don't really reference Alan Grayson too much because he's another Zion Nazi, but he was right about one thing. The Republican Party's modus operandi when it comes to healthcare is simply don't get sick, and if you do, die quickly because we don't want to pay for it. And so when Joni Ernst is talking about, well, are we going to cut Medicaid? Yeah, you're going to die anyway, so who cares? Maybe this will help you die quicker. She's a pretty soulless fuck to begin with, so I can't say I'm surprised. But there's more.
For heaven's sakes, folks.
Hello, everyone. I would like to take this opportunity to sincerely apologize for a statement that I made yesterday at my town hall. I was in the process of answering a question that had been asked by an audience member when a woman who was extremely distraught screamed out from the back corner of the auditorium, "People are going to die." And I made an incorrect assumption that everyone in the auditorium understood that, yes, we are all going to perish from this earth.
This has to be one of the most pathetic attempts at an apology I've ever seen. And that shouldn't be lost on anybody either. She's doing this from a cemetery. And let's not forget, and this is the most important thing, I don't need your apology. No one needs your apology. The only thing anyone needs is universal health care. Who gives a fuck about anything else? Everything else is a distraction. All of it. We are the only developed nation on earth that does not have health care as a right to all its people. That's it. You want to know why COVID was such a nightmare? It's because we don't have a healthcare system. We have a for-profit health system that required people to take an injection that not everybody needed to take. We had lockdowns that weren't necessary. We were not told of alternative methods to dealing with sickness, like sunshine. No, stay inside forever. Do you know why things like that were pushed? Because everything was driven based on profit and opportunity, not how can we get everybody better as quickly as possible? How do we save as many lives as possible? How do we make sure the people who needed to take the medicine, the vaccine, took it? That's not what it was about. It was about money and power. And people like Joni Ernst benefit from that. Why? Because she's funded by the very people who don't want you to have health care. And she gleefully takes that money. No hesitation. She's not the only one. This is a rainbow coalition. This is all parties, all political machinations, all of it. And they get paid very well. And in our country, which by definition would be considered oligarchy or fascism, corporations before human lives, corporations before animals' lives. If anybody has not seen They Live, I highly encourage you to see it. And even if you don't want to see the entire movie of They Live, just watch the 5-minute segment with Roddy Piper when he puts on the glasses on the streets of LA. And that'll give you a good idea of why this statement is so prophetic. Money is their God. Well, it is the God of our crumbling system. And while we are all going to die, we could all die with dignity. I think that's the missing message here. Hi.
So I apologize. And I'm really, really glad that I did not have to bring up the subject of the tooth fairy as well. But for those that would like to see eternal and everlasting life, I encourage you to embrace my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
You know, I honestly can't tell if this is satire or her own form of humility. I don't know. I honestly can't tell. I think she's I think she's doing it with a wink and a nod. I think David's right. I think that she is actually being a cunt here. Excuse my language. But I don't think she's apologizing. I think she's trolling. I think Zaina's right. I don't know, Kimmy. I honestly can't tell. I'm really not sure. I think Seven Sacraments is right. I think it's snark. I don't think she's trolling about the embrace of Jesus. I think that that's without question what she's trying to do here. But do I think that she's being sincere, that she truly cares about people? No, I don't think she does. But this is also why I respect Republicans more than Democrats, because at least they tend to be more transparent about how much they don't fucking care about you. That I would at least think is something that people can agree with. Democrats pretend to care about you. Republicans just tell you to fucking, drop dead, basically. But part of the reason why these things happen, we're not an engaged populace. Not in anywhere the way that we need to be. People like Joni Ernst get elected because the system is broken, because of the corrupt money and power that comes with controlling the system as it is today. As many have said, it's working as it's intended. The Joni Ernst is very emblematic of the worst elements of the Republican Party, unfortunately. But remember, Iowa used to be a very reliable working class state. No, Sassnish, she is not Mormon. She, I believe, is evangelical. I think she's evangelical. If you guys want to look that up, again, Joni's over in Iowa. So I agree with what Joseph George says. I hope you guys agree as well. Better an open enemy than a friend with a knife to your back. Yeah, that does seem to be the theme. Very, very direct. But being so, I don't know, in your face about all of it, it's pretty pathetic. Quintessential with the HK $25. Now, again, I don't want to assume that you're in Hong Kong, so please tell me, am I right or am I wrong? I would appreciate it, and a losing campaign can be useful. Annoying the powerful, start a movement, but just for our info, does she have a shot? Seattle subreddit hates her. Well, do I think that Kshama has a shot? Yeah, why not? I mean, here's what I will say about Kshama Sawant. She will put in the work. She will knock on doors. She will do town halls. She will raise money. She will phone bank. She will text bank. And she will meet with every single person that she can meet with. And her message will resonate. That's what's going to happen. So do I think that she could have a puncher's chance? Why not? Adam Smith is going to run and hide. He's not going to face her. He won't even debate her. Not a chance in freaking hell. No way. Kathy, I assume you're talking about Joni. I don't want to make any presumptions here. I would agree, Zaina. If Sarah Smith, and there's also, it could have been a positive and a negative having the same last name. She does have a coalition ready. Saul Good says that it'll go nowhere. The system is a scam. I'm not saying that the system isn't a scam, but I do think that this is one of those rare cases where I think a congressional run could actually have some benefit. Kshama's not going anywhere. And like I said, if she were to win, I think she would just go scorched earth, because that's essentially what she does. I don't think she spent all this time doing the work that she's done to be hated by everyone, especially Jeff Bezos, to just throw it all away. But I think that her campaign will be effective. And if elected office is any reflection, we need more Kshama Sawants and less Joni Ernsts. That's what we need. I want to leave you all with one final thought before I go. I know many of you here are new. Many of you are here, have been with us for a while. And as I said, we are extremely appreciative of everybody who is with us. But I want to point out something very important here, and the distinction about Jen, her message. Thank you for being here, Kurt Boss. And I like that profile pic. Thank you, Kathy. For those of you who don't know that Jen ran for Congress against the worst of the very worst in all of Congress, and that is Debbie Wasserman Schultz, I want people to be reminded very clearly about the distinction between Judaism and Zionism. This is very important. Thank you, Team Amsterdam. Hope you'll subscribe, click that bell, and stick around. We really appreciate you being here. This is Jen's message. The first person she was interviewed by when she ran for Congress in 24 was our friend Kim Iverson. And this was a key message that she wanted out there regarding the distinction between two women that were raised as Zionist Jews, one who got away from it and one who is still pushing it.
To differ on the Israel issue.
Completely.
What is her stance?
She is Zionist to the core. Whether or not it's ideological or AIPAC induced, I don't know. We're both Ashkenazi Jews raised in the United States, and we were raised to be very anti-Arab, to think that Arabs are lesser, less civilized, dirty, and want to kill us. That is brainwashed into us from a very young age. It's taken me the better part of 10 years to deprogram myself. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. I was used as a tool in ethnic cleansing when I was in Israel. I was there as a teenager. They take groups over there all the time on mass propaganda tours. Where they were taking us was to places that we weren't supposed to be. But you really have to wonder who uses human shields when you're sending teenagers somewhere where you think they need an assault rifle to protect them. And this woman sits there and has our entire Congress sign a resolution that says that anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism.
That's Debbie Wasserman Schultz. And amazingly, this clip was from almost a year ago. So you can imagine. In fact, this was over a year ago. This was almost 15 months ago. And how much has changed? Well, I think a lot has changed. But Wasserman Schultz, as much as anybody, is going to have to pay for her crimes. She's an accessory to genocide. She is an accessory to war crimes. And her very cordial relationship, and I mean extremely cordial relationship, with Netanyahu, it's been going on since the day she stepped into Congress. And she's been there for over 20 years. So it is very important that we make a clear distinction between Zionism and Judaism. People like Wasserman Schultz, they don't want a distinction. And Zayn is right. She's not only an accessory to the genocide in Yemen, but she is somebody who very openly pushed for regime change in Venezuela. Huge Juan Guaido supporter. Backed Trump very hard on that issue. This, to me, is the fight that we must not be distracted by. Keep very close tabs, guys. They don't want us to be able to distinguish between the two. but they're running out of real estate because they don't have any other message. So let them keep talking out their ass.
Actually said that if somebody doesn't support that, they have no soul.
That's true. And guys, if you are not currently following us on social media, make sure that you are. We are at Generational Change on X, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. We hope that you'll follow us there. That's going to change shortly. We are going to be going through a rebrand in the next few weeks. I think you're going to like it. I do. And I would definitely say that for all of you that are here this evening, and this live stream has done pretty well, we are closing in already. You know, we did a post earlier this week lauding the fact that we had just crossed 25,000 subscribers to our channel. Guys, we are 35 subscribers away from 26,000. So we're growing at a pace that, I mean, no, Travers, I didn't forget shit. Keep bugging me, pal. Send that email. If you do the email, I will take care of it. I promise. Yes, this is the message that they're going to put out there, and let them keep doing it. Thank you, Kurt. Yes, we are growing and revolutionary change. That's what it's going to be. So I am, thank you, Saul. And thank you all for being here. Travers likes to break my balls, and I break them right back. That's all it is. Two Irishmen fighting amongst ourselves. So don't get involved and don't get in the middle. We don't want to hear it. By the way, Travers, you had to like that knockout that Paddy McCorry put on Shuki. I'd have to imagine that you were pretty happy with that. I know I was. And Chris Garrett couldn't have said it better. And thank you, Sable. I know it's a little late. Appreciate you checking in. We are very grateful for all of you guys. Let's hope he responds, because we'll be more than happy to collab. I'm sure it'll be a great chat. Skywalk Trice, I believe you're new, and we appreciate you being here. So again, Thursday night, 7 o'clock, show number 2 without Jen. However, it will be with our friend Amy C3. She will be co-hosting with me. We'll have lots of wonderful topics to talk about. So smash that like button, share, subscribe, do all those things that we ask you to do. We appreciate you all very, very much. We'll see you Thursday. And free Palestine.